Financial genius.
Ready? All right. We're going to call to order the Village of Biscayne Park regular commission meeting for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015. Roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Coviello?
Here.
Vice Mayor Jonas?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Ross?
Here.
And Commissioner Watts is absent.
All right. If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. Our first item is a presentation, Employee of the Year, and a Public Service Award.
Mayor and Commissioners, residents and staff, thank you for coming out early tonight for this special award. I know in the past that the village has done recognition of its employees, and we try to do it, if not on a daily basis, as often as possible around Village Hall. But we wanted to recognize one employee for Employee of the Year. So we did something different this year, and we came up with a nomination form, and every employee had the opportunity to nominate one of their peers for this award. And there was a majority vote, and I'm going to read to you a little bit about the person that was nominated, or and the person who will be getting the award. This person has positive energy, and she is what it looks like. She's a good cook, always willing to help and support the administration, fellow employees, and residents. When it comes to activities outside of the business day, she is here to support in any way possible. She always makes sure that everyone, our visitors, get the help that they are needed. She's willing to always work with a smile and always be able to handle unruly residents. Not that anyone here or watching on TV is unruly. They're from those other cities that come here. I'm going to read a lot from this one because I think this was so wonderfully written. In addition to providing clerical support for the village clerk, Milan provides the same for the building department, finance department, code compliance, public works on a regular basis. All this while being the main person to answer phone calls and greet visitors. Enough cannot be said for the genuine efforts and assistance that Milan provides to the elderly and those needing special assistance. And this is really important. I don't think a lot of people know this part of Milan. This includes calling agencies on their behalf for transportation and daycare services, visiting residents, and even taking them to stores and other locations on her day off. It is not unusual to find Milan at Publix with one of our elderly residents who cannot get there. We've had residents whose children have come into town, most recently someone from California. I think Mayor, I think you were with me that day. I think you were in the office, or Vice Mayor Jonas, one of you were in the office when a resident's daughter came in from California just to meet Milan while she was in town. She calls them and follows them up to make sure they're able to get the services they need. When Milan performs a task for another department, she owns the task. She asks questions and follows up where necessary. She's not doing just the job and stepping away. She fully wears the team uniform and fulfills the role. An example that was given is that she's looking now for the best prices on our supplies, working with Amazon to make sure that we get the best price possible, which is a lot of interaction with a large corporation. And finally, another great one that I'll read directly, and we also forget about this often. Milan was the first in line. It was the front line for the village during the sanitation transition. On the worst days, she continued to smile and provide assistance and solutions, and that's very important. And it's with great pride that I share with you that we're very proud of Milan. We have her son on FaceTime on the iPad from New York. Philip. And these are great things that Milan does, not only in the course of the workday, but in the course of the week to help our residents. You've seen her at all of our events helping out. She's volunteering during this time. But Milan's life is just not about Biscayne Park, and I'll share with you two important things that you need to know about Milan. She is saving every penny she has to one day buy a yellow Hummer. And when she is in her car, she is not quietly meditating, but she is jamming out very loudly to the Black Eyed Peas. So Mylan, if you could please come up, we have a plaque for you. And it says, Employee of the Year Award, presented to Mylan in appreciation of your dedication, professionalism, patience, commitment, and community service. March 3rd, 2015. I also have Marie Smith here with a special gift from the foundation. And George.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The foundation has given a very generous donation to Mylan.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Treasurer, I want to thank you. No. I want to thank you very much for acknowledgement. Just part of my job, and I'm glad to here to assist our resident, and I'm glad to do so. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Mylan, finish with Philip. Our next award is our Public Service Award, and when I approached the chief about this award, he immediately knew who it should go to. Almost 40 years ago, police officer Michael Marchese entered law enforcement profession. During his 40 years of service to the public as a police officer, with almost 20 of those being right here in the village of Biscayne Park, Officer Marchese has faithfully served the public. He has intelligently and diligently performed his duties, wavering at no time even when his own personal safety was at risk. Officer Marchese has served as a shining example of what public service is all about. He has persevered without complaint in an ever-increasing complex society over the years, often in hostile and dangerous environments. He has served honorably, with sacrifice, care, fairness, and concern for all. His service to the village of Biscayne Park has been praiseworthy and outstanding. It is with great pride and honor that the Village of Biscayne Park Police Department has selected Police Officer Michael Marchese for its Public Service Award. Michael.
One thing I don't do is speak too
Public Service Award, you do, presented to Michael Marchese in appreciation of your dedication and commitment to the residents of the Village of Biscayne Park, March 3rd, 2015. And we also have from the foundation.
Okay. Officer Marchese, on behalf of the village and also the foundation, I wish to make this donation to you as being an excellent police officer. And of course, I was married to one, so I know how hard and tough a job it is.
You want to do a quick picture with both of them together?
Thank you. Thank you.
All of us?
Yeah, we can put it here. You don't want it in front of the seal? Why don't you put it in front of the seal? Or come on, in front of the seal. I mean, we only have 24 other pictures of all of us in front of the seal. The same position. In the middle, in the middle. Wait, Captain, Corporal? Commander? I just kept being loaded. Up, down, you know, it's that way around here. Just a little. Okay. Perfect. Ready, everybody? 1, 2. One more. Beautiful.
Jesse's not here, right? All right, we're going to move on to item 4B. Who's handling 4B? Heidi? Maria?
This is a ceremonial swearing in. We did do the official swearing in. Officer Munoz came on board with us right after the last commission meeting, and we did not want to waste any time since we have a willing and able and very qualified reserve officer. So we were able to swear him in and get him into our training program, but it's important for him to meet the community and for you all to see his ceremonial swearing in.
Thank you.
Do you want to introduce?
Good evening. Without further ado, Officer Alfredo Munoz, can you please step up? This is Alfredo Munoz.
I, Alfred Munoz,
I, Alfred Munoz,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida
and the state of Florida
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
both foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestics,
and I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to
And
the
allegiance.
same,
and allegiance to the same,
and that I am entitled
and I am entitled
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution,
under the Constitution,
and I will faithfully perform
and I will faithfully perform
all duties of the office
all duties of the office
of Reserve Police Officer
of Reserve Police Officer
for the Village of Biscayne Park
for the Village Biscayne Park
Police Department,
Police Department,
of which I'm about to enter.
of the about to enter,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations again.
Officer Munoz comes to us with 19, is it 19 years? 19.
Injury.
We practiced that once. 12 years, I'm sorry. 12 years as a military police officer, working specifically and mostly with residential installations and armed services families. So we think he'll be a great fit here within our community because he has that community policing experience. Yeah.
One, two.
Beautiful.
Officer, thank you.
Welcome. Welcome to the village.
All right, item 4C, the Chamber of Commerce. I don't think Jesse's here. They have a council meeting this evening as well, so, okay, we'll see if he shows up. Item 4D.
They're not here.
The Girl Scout, oh, they're not here, but we'll do it.
They're not here.
That's what
They're not
Sharice
here.
said.
We'll wait.
Right, but we're still going to handle this. Okay. 4E, Chuck?
Not even the woman? I had just.
Hey, good evening. I first want to congratulate Mylan and Mike Marchese. And that's a great thing that you did put together for the night. Mylan's still here. Mike. Heidi and I actually had a miscommunication. I don't have a presentation. We talked about doing something, and it's something I'd have to I want to coordinate with the chief. So, but I'll say that we're going to have a Crime Watch meeting on March 31st here at the Rec Center. I'll also say I want to thank Commissioner Anderson for allowing me to use his space for an article in the newsletter, and it's already resulted in 2 new members of Crime Watch in a day. That's not bad. So right now we're about at 680 for the village. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chuck. All right, any additions, deletions? We have to wait, okay. All right, we'll adjourn until 7.
Vice Mayor Walters is on his way, so we'll do him right when we start up.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll be back in 10 minutes. March 3rd, 2015. Do we need to do any?
No, we're on.
We're all
Take your
good?
meeting, you're good.
Okay. All right. Hello? Are we on? Can everyone hear me?
Caesar's turning it on.
All right. Any additions, deletions, or withdrawals? No. I'm sorry. We're gonna take the presentation. We have Jesse Walters, Councilman Jesse Walters from Miami Shores, and he's also the director of the Miami Shores Chamber of Commerce. So we invited him to come speak about the chamber and some of the initiatives that they're working on. So Jesse, thank you.
I don't have to say my address like in Miami Shores.
Why not? Why not?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jesse Walters. I run the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Miami Shores. I appreciate the invitation to come and be with you this evening. I just wanted to share a little bit of information with the council and the community about the chamber. When I was hired in 2011, they said to me that we're called the Greater Miami Shores Chamber of Commerce, but we've never really done much with the greater part. And so do you have any ideas? And as hopefully many of you have noticed, we started distributing the Egret magazine in Biscayne Park maybe 2 years ago now. We added El Portal last year and hoping to move into Quayside this summer. But the concept was that we don't want to infringe on North Miami's area, but we do want to be a service to our neighboring communities, our sister communities, because you don't have a Chamber of Commerce, and we should be trying to help you or service you in some ways as your official Chamber of Commerce. So at the Board of Directors meeting where we do our annual retreat in December at Barry University, the board really got serious about doing a little more than just bringing the egret to you. We have members of our Board of Directors now who are from both communities. The mayor of El Portal is on our board. Your mayor is on our board, and your former mayor, John Hornbuckle, is on the board as well. There are 2 other people from El Portal who are on our Board of Directors. We have 32 members, but they're very serious about increasing our visibility in your communities. We've also, hopefully you've noticed, we have a web page on our website for both communities, as well as in the egret and in our annual community guide, where there's contact information for how to get to your website, your different department heads, your phone numbers, and information. In fact, I looked at the egret tonight to make sure I had the right address for OnStar, and the community center address is in there. So hopefully a lot of good information for members of your community that we want to try to help get out to folks. And then there's a couple other things that the Chamber is working on this year. We are cautiously optimistic about being able to pull off a mixer in Biscayne Park in the summer, I think July or August, and El Portal is taking the other month. So the typical monthly events that the Chamber of Commerce puts on, we're going to try to hold one every year in each community so that there might be opportunities for your residents and for any business owners to come and network together. And I guess the last thing is that there's a 3 Villages committee now of the Chamber of Commerce. Mayor Coviello is the chair, and Mayor Claudio Cabillos from El Portal is the co-chair. And they are looking at things like the mixer that I just mentioned, but also perhaps a bicycle ride or a 5K race that might encompass all 3 communities where we would go through El Portal, Miami Shores, and Biscayne Park. So hopefully those are welcome things to you. We're very appreciative of the welcome the Chamber's been given to Biscayne Park by your elected officials and your staff. And if you have any ideas for how we can serve you better or be of greater assistance at the Chamber of Commerce, please look me up. I'm there Monday through Friday. And really appreciate all the warm welcomes that we've gotten, as well as the opportunity to come and address you tonight.
Jesse, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Thank you.
I think it's a great opportunity for, I think it's a great opportunity for all of our villages. It's something we've been thinking about and talking about, kicking around for a while. So thank you very much for coming and giving us more details about it. I have a question. You serve as vice mayor in Miami Shores as well, and Miami Shores had a council meeting this evening?
25 minutes.
25 minutes.
7:30.
Hopefully it's nice and close, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, good. We don't want you to be late. Thank you for
But
that.
thanks for putting me on early, I appreciate it.
Jesse, thank you very much. Oh, sure, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been on the list. I met you, I stepped into the Chamber of Commerce some months ago. And I was delighted to see that you hosted one of your history events at El Portal in the village. And I was hoping that in the coming year, after our village log cabin is restored, that we could host one of your history meetings here. I'm hoping to get an architectural historian to come in and talk about some things, but I hope that we can work together.
Most definitely, and if anyone has any photographs or things for our little history corner that we have in there, we try to work in El Portal and Biscayne Park once or twice a year. So any good photos like that or history trivia, we're always welcome or very happy to receive. Okay.
One of our residents, Susan Weiss, won the contest a few months ago.
Yes, yeah.
All right, thank you again,
thank
Jesse.
you. Thank
All
you.
right. All right, Girl Scouts? No Girl Scouts?
No, the Girl Scouts aren't here.
Okay. All right, let's move on to additions, deletions. Anything? Staff? Nothing?
No, I just want to remind the commission that items 10A, 11A, 11B, 11C, and 11D are companion items. They should be considered or at least discussed together.
Okay. Anything from the commission? All right, public comment. Anyone that wishes to make any public comment, please state your name and address for the record.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's ready for spring.
Good evening, everyone. My name is William Ray. I live at 990 Northeast 115 Street, just around the corner here. And I am coming to comment specifically on the proposed changes to the code with regard to landscaping. And I believe it's in the 5s, the numbers. I came to the meeting, the joint meeting here held about a month ago. And I listened to everything and I spoke. I downloaded the proposed ordinance changes and went through it. And there are certain aspects of it that affect me directly. So, I mean, before I get into that, let me just say, I mean, I appreciate what, you know, that people work very hard on the various boards to create a community that I enjoy living in and that all of us enjoy living in. And so I don't want to in any way belittle their efforts or what they have done. You know, I am specifically concerned with what I feel are mistakes, things that I don't agree with in the code, and so that's what I'm here to speak about. When I first went through the code, I started driving around Miami looking for neighborhoods that have similar problems. The biggest one is no sidewalks, and that's very rare. It's hard to find a neighborhood without sidewalks. There are a few places in Coconut Grove that do not have sidewalks, that have trees directly up to the street line, and landscaping directly up to the street line. I mean, I have some pictures if you guys want, or I could email it to you guys individually. If you'd like, I can do that and send you guys an email. But my point is that it happens in other places, and it's allowed, and it's not regulated, or if there are regulations, it's not enforced. So, you know, I was here, I heard the discussions about why these regulations were created or proposed, and basically it seemed to me it was a thought experiment of, okay, I'm walking down the street and a car comes whipping on around the road, and what am I going to do? Which is interesting, but I don't know that there's that actual need there, since it hasn't happened. So I don't know if I agree with that. So now we move to the ground cover. According to the proposed code, you would only be able to have turf grass in the 5 feet between of the swale in front of your house. Now I was looking into the Dade County code, and the Dade County code is pushing the idea of xeriscaping, or using plants that use less water. Turf grass is one of the most water-intensive ground covers that you can use. If you don't water it, it turns brown in the winter. And so that is why, you know, the county encourages to use plants that are natives and they don't use that much water. And so you have ground covers that perhaps aren't you know, this tall, but maybe this tall. And that is what I've installed in my house now. Under this code, I would have to remove that and either put mulch or ground cover. Now, I was walking, you know, to get my mail, and I thought about this idea of a car coming around the bend, and I said, hey, I could step easily on this. It's not a big deal. It's not like I would be, you know, prevented from saving my life because the ground cover is 4 inches high rather than 2 inches high. So I disagree with that specifically. And I think that this proposed code is kind of bucking the trend in that way, in that, you know, water is a big issue in the state of Florida and in Miami. And I think any efforts to try to mitigate or use less water should be encouraged rather than regulated against. So that's that issue. The trees in the swale, the other thing on the Dade County Code is that they are required for new development to have a certain number of trees per square foot, per foot of frontage. The idea being that Miami has a smaller canopy than other cities that are less encouraging the growth of plant life. So that, you know, they want to have a greater canopy in Miami. It should be as in like you go to Coral Gables and Coconut Grove. You know, it's like a, you know, forest. It's beautiful.
William, I'm sorry to interrupt. If you could just wrap it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
The mailbox issue, as the code proposes now after the changes, it's 2 feet from the road. According to the U.S. Postal Service, their guidelines are the face of the mailbox being 6 to 8 inches from the street to make it that you can easily put the mail in. So I don't know what we know that the U.S. Postal Service doesn't know about the placement of mailboxes, but I'd close it, and I don't want to take any more of anyone else's time. I think that the proposed code is not well researched, somewhat arbitrary. I'm not in opposition of the whole thing. These are my personal issues specifically, but I think it definitely needs to be looked at and really examined to see that it serves this community in a way that everybody can accept and appreciate and beautify the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, if I may?
Sure.
It may be better for the record, we should announce that
2 minutes?
the ordinance is, the ordinance is going to be a public hearing.
Right. Yeah. What we have tonight is just a discussion item. We're just discussing the ordinance, and then, assuming we want to go forward with either all of it or parts of it, we'll then have 2 public hearings to consider the final ordinance.
Right, but I took this opportunity to have.
No, it's very much appreciated. Yeah, no, this is the time to do it. It's the discussion time.
Harvey Bill, 450 Northeast 121st Street. I'm also talking about Chapter 5. I believe the impetus to this was about the trees in the swale that possibly would be dying and who would be responsible for removing them. If that's what the whole idea was, why don't we address just that? What's happened is most of the things in the code are already covered. And we're doing it, and we're making it much more confusing than it was before. I've read it. I came to the meetings. They discussed what the intent was on some of the different sub-chapters in it. And what they discussed is not the way it's written now. It is very, very confusing. And it's to the point where, as our attorney says, some of it is unenforceable. And we don't want a code that's unenforceable. Let's just address the portion that we do need. Let's make sure it's well written. And if we need something else done afterwards, let's do it piece by piece. It doesn't all go together. And we don't have to pass the whole thing. As I say, there are too many parts in there that we're addressing that we don't really need to. Thank you.
All right. Harvey, thank you.
Hello, Erica Pettis, 113th Street and Northeast 8th Court. I came up to have a comment about Section 9A, the variance for Marianne Alonso. I just wanted to say that on Northeast 8th Court, the way our houses are built and the lot is situated, that the side yard is actually, I mean, that's our yard. We don't really have a front yard. Whoops, sorry, a little nervous. Don't really have a front yard or a backyard. The backyard is just more like a hallway walking to the other side of the house. And she's proposing to put like a little cabana or really a shed, but it's not really a shed. When you see the pictures, it's very nice looking little house, and they're going to keep their towels and stuff in there. And I just wanted to say, as a neighbor on the other side of the street, she's doing a very nice job, and it's going to look great. So I hope you accept it.
Thank you, Erica.
And Mayor, I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you. On that one, Ms. Bennett, you may want to state for 9A because it's what we call a quasi-judicial, And if you want to, you could actually testify since you're the neighbor next door.
Okay, I'm testifying.
So wait until 9A is called, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted part of the evidence, you'd have to wait until that time. Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Good evening. Tracy Trutman, 791 Northeast 116th Street. I'm going to be speaking this evening on Chapter 5, what I like to call Swellgate. I've spoken to, I believe, almost all the commissioners regarding my position on this, but I just want to make it publicly clear. Once again, I want to commend the board for really going out of their way and they're volunteering their time, and I'm not going to reiterate that too long. I think the first speaker did a very nice job of that. But I'm not in agreement with this chapter as it's written for a variety of reasons. Number one, I don't want to see our code enforcement office spend our time measuring leaves and lengths of leaves and things, branches going over. It affects tremendous amount of people in the park, and it's not addressing problems that we have. This comes down to a problem issue. We have not had any, I've asked several people, and we have not had any documented people being run off the roads per se. I understand we don't have sidewalks, and it would be ideal to have them, but we don't have them. And that is our village, and it's how it's been for the last 80 years. I think that the components that are in the code as written are landscaping. They don't even belong in the chapter for which they're written. If you want a landscape code, then that has to be a separate piece. I happen not to agree with the landscape code as it's currently written. I think we should enforce the codes on sightlines that we have regarding the vegetation component. I think I would scrap almost everything that's written in there for the same reason as I don't believe it's enforceable, and I do not think that we should have anything that is not legally enforceable and also arbitrary. Regarding the parking, I happen to concur with the parking needing hard surfaces. However, I would support maintaining the 1950s look for some of the folks that don't mind that it's the double strip sidewalk kind of driveway. I don't think it adds to force all those people to then go back and fix it. Would it be nice? Sure, but not everybody has a spare $5,000 to do that, or whatever the cost would be. Regarding boards in general, and this is a bigger piece. Boards can make recommendations based upon what direction should be coming from both the city manager and the commission. But for boards to be just going around doing what they think in their own best interest or what they believe is important kind of creates some issues for the park. It's that particular group's opinion of what should be done for the village. I would like to see some more work by the boards and the commission and the city manager on how to make the boards work more functionally for the village. Because if you're meeting every week, you're going to come up with something whether you need to or not. This started off as a very small issue that cost the village $11,000, which are the trees. And it became something else. I don't think the way it's written is legally enforceable. I don't think the overall content, and I call it Swellgate because I do believe taking back the swale, since we haven't really had it for the last 80 years, whether the law's been there or not, it's not been enforced, I don't think is effective for the village. I personally drove around and within 15 minutes saw over 40 to 50 properties affected and impacted, whether now or in the future. And I think that's it. Thank you all very much. And please, one more comment. Please allow the village manager and the attorney to, and the mayor and the commissioners work on the code itself. Because I do think we have an issue of technical expertise, and we need to make sure the code's written so it's legally enforceable. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tom Forster. I live at 11220 Northeast 8th Court. And I wanted to take the moment just to, two items. One, to sort of, since I've been involved in, I gained a certain amount of notoriety in the Swalgate issue. I wanted to make it clear that I'm not one of these guys that I'm just throwing firebombs from the side. And I wanted to let the board and the commission know that I would be very happy and willing to serve on any board or commission, serve in any capacity to serve the city and the village. So I wanted to make that clear, you know, that what I'd like to do is be a productive and make this a positive contribution, you know, to our community, which I love. And so I also wanted to, I wanted to make that in public, all right? The second item was I just wanted to say I want to stay around for 9A as well, because I'd like to be a witness to testify on behalf of Mariana and her variance. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Gary Kuehl, 777 Northeast 111th Street. I am on the Code Review Board and have participated in this. I don't want to debate anything, just a couple of points of clarification. The Dade County Code does not recommend, actually prohibits planting trees at the edge of the street. It's supposed to have a 7-foot setback and a 20-foot separation in the right-of-way. As far as the ribbon strips, as they're called, the 2 strips of concrete or asphalt in a driveway, they're not prohibited. There's nothing you have to do as far as removing or correcting them. They're allowed. What was the other point for them? I don't know. The other thing is that the code does not mandate that anybody has to remove existing shrubbery in the 5-foot setback. It can remain until it died or damaged. I can't think of the other point, but I just wanted to mention those few things. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gary.
My name is Marie Smith. I live at 12015 Griffin Boulevard, and I'm here as a member of the foundation, and I have a concern. The foundation has been set up in order to provide funds for improvement in the village. And of course, Kristen was at our last meeting, and of course the big push is for the lighting in front of the rec. We have, because we are raising these funds, we have put together the Food and Tunes evenings in the park. And of course, we had put together the fact that March being St. Patrick's, the Irish Heritage Month, and specifically Women's Month, we had put together Food and Tunes for the 7th, which is this Saturday. So I was very excited when I received my Biscayne Park newsletter the other day, but then I was very disappointed because that newsletter contained nothing of our Food and Tunes for March the 7th. Now, I don't know whether this is a weakness on behalf of the foundation or the village, because if the village is aware of us having an event to raise money for improvement, then they should go after putting in a date in the newsletter so that all the residents can be aware of what is available. So I would suggest that the more cooperation between the village and our boards so that we get out the information to raise these funds and make the village a better place to live for its residents. Thank you. That is my suggestion, and we are going to have the Breffney School of Irish Dancers perform on Saturday, which would have probably brought in a lot of other people had they known, but as I say, we were not advertised. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Mayor, we've put up the billboard advertising Food and Tunes earlier this week. We put it on our Facebook page. We had this discussion with the foundation after Oktoberfest when this view was expressed to us that we had dropped the ball. And we have always expressed to the foundation that just give us the flyers and we would do these inserts into the newsletter. So we're always willing to promote their activities.
Okay.
Barbara Kuehl, 111th Street. I'm here to tell you that Gary just remembered what he forgot to say. And that was that he felt that it was premature to go ahead and put this in the form of an ordinance. And actually, that's why I'm here too. If any of you, I know some of the commissioners have gone to the meetings that were held between the two Park and Parkways and the code review. And just listening to the board members, you can see that there's a lot of, I'm not going to say disagreement, but it's a lack of like a meeting of the minds to see what this actually applies to and what they want it to say. It's a very, very complicated issue. And it's written, it's long to begin with, but in some sections, you're talking about a very big impact to a lot of homes. There's a financial impact because most of the people haven't mentioned driveways, but that's one of the biggest financial impacts. And I would ask the commission to continue to have meetings, invite the public, And when you do the meetings, I don't think it's helpful when a partial agenda is put forward. I think you need to end up with some type of a finished document and then to go over the entire thing to make sure that there are different sentences in there that affect the outcome of this, and they're not being addressed. A lot of the members, it's 9:30, 10 o'clock. A lot of people are going home because they have to get up early. Maybe do this on a Saturday. Try to accommodate people. But this is not, it's not ready. It needs to be clarified. And part of it is the intent of this commission, what they want, what they see as a new type of code and the type of things they want enforced. So for me, it's just, I'm not even going to comment on the single issues, but I hope you postpone this. I did want to talk about the Girl Scout rental fee and the donations for Pelican Harbor. The Girl Scout rental fee, I see this as setting a precedent for other organizations that might be just as worthy, that will wonder why, maybe a boy organization wondering why they can't get that too. And this is our one business in a way in Biscayne Park, and we do charge other exercise groups, dance groups a fee. And I feel that we need to consider that if we're before we give the hall away. On the same line with Pelican Harbor, I've donated personally to Pelican Harbor. I think it's a very worthwhile group, but I don't think if we're borrowing money, the first time in the history of Biscayne Park we're borrowing this type of debt, that we should be making contributions really to anybody. And we have to repay monthly a debt. And I think you should, I don't know if all of you are aware, but to give any kind of donation, you need 4 votes. It's a supermajority, so that our charter takes it seriously. And as a resident who is backing you borrowing money, I'm not in favor of making any more donations at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Barbara, thank you.
Janie Anderson, 11th Place, 119th Street. I too have a comment on the Girl Scout situation, and I really commend staff for looking for new programs and trying new things. I'm all on board with that, but I just really feel strongly programs need to be fully self-supporting. And whether or not staff would be here anyway, there is still a cost involved. And at 9.7 mils, and while I am all for the borrowing, totally on board with that, that's a new course for us, something we haven't done. Now is the time we shouldn't be waiving revenue. We should be doing everything possible to generate more revenue. And when I look at what happens when everybody doesn't play by the same set of rules, it at times can get very, very ugly. And you figure you have coaches and other instructors who have to pay a fee here. If they didn't have to pay that fee, they might lower their charges also. So you just get into a whole can of worms. We have residents who rent this to put on a seminar. Now that may be a business, but it's still our resident. Everybody can come up with a compelling reason to waive a fee, and I just think that's a bad road to go. On to another one of my favorite topics. Well, first of all, I want to thank the manager. I think your newsletter article was awesome. I really liked that, I call it the code corner under the bright red banner. That was pretty cool. Sad to see that one of the top 3 most violated codes has to do with garbage and trash and containers. That's got to be like the easiest ordinance in the world to follow. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't even take that much time and effort. And with us having pickup now, the whole city on 2 days, I don't understand the excuse, but more than just putting trash and garbage out on the wrong day, you see so many properties with the cans lined up along the front wall, or the cans in front of the garage. The ordinance is pretty clear. It's 6.3.2b. Garbage cans and trash receptacles must be placed behind the face of the building and screened from view except when properly placed out for pickup. It's a shame that our code officer has to spend time handling this. It's like, shouldn't even be on his day. What I really hope to see more and more from this commission is taking a stronger stance in strong emphasis that this is for all of our codes. It's for the benefit of our community. It's not about each of us as individuals. It's what we have a responsibility to do to make our city look better, which helps all of us in the long run. And it really takes coming from you guys, leading by example and leading by strength, because unfortunately sometimes soft-stepping things just doesn't work.
Thank you, Jeannie. Anyone else?
All right. Hi, Shalisha. I'm at the rec center, so I just have a couple things to make it short. I just want to publicly say thank you to Rosemary for my part-time employee. She comes like 2 days a week, and she helps me out with different things on the at the rec center and getting into gadgets and all kind of stuff. So I just want to, she volunteers. She's not an actual employee, but I just want to say thank you because, I mean, she commits so many hours and she doesn't have to, and you know. So thank you. Thanks, Rosie. Also, Walk and Hound is this Saturday at 9, meeting at the rec center. Hope to see you there. Food and Tunes is at 6, right? And then 6:30. And it's a really nice group. Like the Irish dancers, they're so cute. You should come out and see. We have our egg hunt. It is on the 28th, and it's from 10 to 2. It's going to be long this year. We got a lot going on, not just egg hunts, but like activities and stuff, so you should come out. Also, just want to clarify, I know in the newsletter, the dance class, it didn't have the time, so it is from 10:30 to 11:15 for any of the parents that have been asking. And the classes start March 11th. And just kind of trying to, you know, give a little publicity to our Art in the Park event that we're having in May. The 16th, we're going to have a jazz band and a nice cover band, as well as artists from the community, as well as the village. They're going to be displaying their artworks and all of that. So,
Shalisha, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
Shalisa's not giving herself credit. The Art in the Park event is as a result of a grant that we were awarded from the county that Shalisa and Wendy Hernandez in our office wrote and met countless times with this county staff on in order to make sure we received the funds. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to financials. Irwin, 7A.
Good evening. We're going to be looking at the financials for the 4 months ended January 2015. Wait till Maria pulls up the page. Okay. We can see that we are 33.3% through the year. We're a third through the year. Year to date, we've got actual revenues of 1.5 million against a budget of 2.4. So we've collected recognized 62% of our revenues for the year as of the end of January. Going down to our expenditures, our total expenditures year to date are 763,000 against a budgeted 2,458,000 or 31%. And again, looking at the barometer, we're one third into the year. So if we've only eaten 31% of our total expenditure budget, we're right where we should be, in other words. There were 2 departments that were slightly over the 33%, and you can see they're labeled B and A on your sheet. If you look next to the third column, you'll see a B and an A. The B is mainly due to a timing difference. For promotional activities, we had budgeted $2,500 for the year, and year to date, we spent $1,900 of the $2,500. Most of that was for the employee Thanksgiving turkeys and for the groundbreaking ceremonies that made up the bulk of that number. We're not over budget, it's how we're spending it during the year, just faster than spreading it over 12 months. The second thing, which is a good thing, you can see that our inspector fees are higher. I'd like to see that. Why? Because if our inspector fees are higher, it means we're collecting more permitting revenues. And since our permit revenues are higher than the expenditures, the higher that number is, the better it is. So we can see that we had higher expenditures, but if you look at the top under charge for services, you see we're 33% into the year, but we're at 47% in revenue year to date. So that's the offset of the permitting fee. The permit fee, inspector's fees is the revenues that's come in. Our ad valorem, you can see we've collected 1.1 million out of 1.3 million year to date, or 87% of our ad valorem has been collected through the end of January. Going to the second page, we're going to take a look at our cash position as of the end of January. And you'll see that, of our bank accounts, we have 1.5 million sitting in the operating account. approximately $303,000 sitting in our CITT surtax account, and $35,000 sitting in our forfeiture accounts. Now, the manager later on this evening will be talking to you about the potential and the pros and cons of setting up a separate reserve that we talked about in previous meetings for the funds that we have in our general fund, and I'm going to let her address it when she has her.
Yeah, I can do that now.
Okay.
We've been looking into ways to maximize the money that we have in the bank. So we're looking right now at some kind of interest-bearing account, perhaps a very safe mutual fund, and we're talking to the bank right now. I plan to communicate with Ken Small of the Florida League of Cities to see if he knows of some options that other cities have available to them. Right now, we have an option available to us where we would have to have a minimum of $500,000 in the bank at all times, and we would get a 0.33 return. So it's not that aggressive, somewhat safe, but at the same time we would get a return. What that basically creates is an account where we would put our reserves, because it's about the amount of our reserves. And it's just one way, at the suggestion of the commission, for us to be creative and grow money that we're not necessarily needing to touch. So we will continue to update you as we continue to look for options, but that's where we are right now with that research.
Okay.
Was that it? That was
Yeah,
everything?
that was basically. I did talk to the bank earlier today, and he did tell me that they are trying to get a little bit of a higher rate. He might be able to squeeze another few points to bring it up to 0.5%, but he can talk about it afterwards.
Great, thank you.
Okay, there's a third page you'll see tonight. As we can all see, there's construction going out outside the log cabin. So I wanted to give you an update on our appropriation grant for on the $1 million grant that we have. You can see that if you look down at the first graph, you can see that on the design and engineering, as of the end of January, we're 96.9% complete on the design and engineering phase. And if you look over on the construction, you can see that we have expenditures of $46,000 so far. Only 5% of the construction has been expended, based on the entire project. So we still have 95% to go as of the end of January. Obviously, that's going to be updated in the month of February as we're getting more into the construction phase. You'll see those numbers increase. Are there any questions so far?
Anything from the commission?
As a reminder, this is a reimbursement grant, and we've received our first reimbursement thus far.
And as the other grants do start, I will be presenting those to you as we start spending the money on the log cabin grant and the other grants that we have.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson? Yep. Oh, I thought you had something. No. All right, Erwin, that's it?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
No,
Madam?
that's great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Erwin.
All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Vice Mayor Jonas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to public hearing, item 9A, the variance request.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a variance request from Mariana Ferro and Amaldis Alonso. Property is located at 825 Northeast 113th Street, Biscayne Park, Florida. First, I'll let you know what the variance request is. I don't believe we have a member of the Planning and Zoning Board, so. Oh, Gage. Oh, good to see you, Gage. Okay, so the Planning and Zoning Board's here. As you know, you sit now as a quasi-judicial board, so it's like a courtroom proceeding. You need to weigh the evidence. Consistent with our code, this went to the Planning and Zoning Board. This is a variance for a shed to be located in the setback area, and the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board was 4 members voted to deny the variance, and 1 agreed that voted for the variance. So it was, the recommendation is not to grant the variance from your Planning and Zoning Board. I'll remind the Commission, and anyone who was noticed for this meeting within the area of this property, I'm going to ask you to stand up and be sworn in, and for Mr. Hartung to be stand up and sworn in, and anyone else who's going to testify. So please repeat after me. Or answer in the affirmative. I swear the testimony and evidence I'm about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. So everyone's now been sworn in. As this commission knows, the grounds for a variance are very specific in our code and in most codes, because what the request is to do something that the code does not allow. So when you look at a variance, you need to find the following 4 things: that there are special circumstances or conditions affecting the property which are such that the strict application of this chapter would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of his land, his or her land. 2, that the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right. 3, that the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property in the area which the property is situated. 4, that the variance proposes the minimum variance which makes possible the reasonable use of the property. If you decide to reject it, that's within your rights. If you decide to approve it, that's within your rights. You can also decide to approve it with whatever reasonable conditions you feel are necessary. So having stated that, Mayor, we normally would have Mr. Hartung come up and tell you what Planning and Zoning Board did, and then have the petitioner come up and give their reasons for why they think the variance should be granted, and then the affected parties, those of you that were just sworn in, after that can speak on the issue.
Okay, thank you. Gage?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Gage Hartung, Chairman, Planning and Zoning Board. Sorry. I was not actually at that meeting, but I would have voted with the 4 that voted, or the 4 that voted no, I guess it was. I'm sorry, I don't remember. The reason being is because the board did not feel that this application met the 4 standards that are required for a variance. First one being special circumstances, conditions affecting the property which are such that the strict application and provisions of the chapter will deprive the applicant of reasonable use. There are other locations on this property that the shed could be placed without any variance, or could be located so that we felt did not deprive them of applicant of the reasonable use of their land. The second point, the variance is necessary to preserve the enjoyment of a substantial property right of the petitioner. Excuse me. Again, there's other places on the property where the shed could be located, and just by having it in this one location is not depriving this property owner of the enjoyment of their property. Number 3, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare. It's a corner lot. They want to put it in the front corner, the side corner. This would affect the neighbor behind them, because if you would think about a person that if you have a regular in-lot, your neighbor to the right could have a shed that's 5 feet from the property line and 5 feet from the street, or from their front property line, so 14 feet from the street. Just think about the detrimental effect that would have on the neighbors around them. Excuse me. And that the variance proposes a minimum variance, which makes possible the reasonable use of the property. Again, it's quite a substantial shed, wanting to put it out 9 feet from the 14 feet from the street. They could have made it smaller. They could have made it shorter so that it would be less obtrusive, because technically it is in the front of the 100 and Northeast Court Street. So these 4 points the board felt this petition did not meet, so we advised you to not approve it.
Okay, thank you, Gage.
You can ask questions of Mr. Hartung, but not to discuss the substance of it, because if you have a follow-up question, or you can wait until the petition everyone, then you hear everybody.
All right, so why don't we wait for everyone to present. Is Mariana here? Amy, I'm sorry.
Hi, Amy Alonso, 825 Northeast, 113th Street. Originally, when I had asked for a shed, they told me that wasn't going to be an issue, but obviously it's been an issue. The other space that they requested I put the shed, I have my septic tank on and drain fields, and I just redid the drain fields. In the other corner that I measured, which is next to the garage, it doesn't fit. Anybody's welcome to go to the property and look. It's just a storage shed. My neighbor in the back did not have a problem. I spoke to her. She told me she would write a letter, whatever was needed. it's not going to be visible from the street because I already have hedges and I have landscape. I believe you guys have pictures of the new landscaping that's going in. I mean, obviously it's a corner lot, and everything in a corner lot you need variance for. So,
Okay. Is that it?
yeah. Any
All right.
questions?
Thank you, Amy. Oh, one. The septic tank area, is that where the
Yeah, that layout looks a little different. You should have the survey on there, and you'll see like the.
I don't see the septic tank on the. Can you just point out?
So when you look at the house,
The survey is in the package. So
No, I
Maria's
ha-
getting the survey.
I have it here, the survey, but I don't see the septic.
No, it's not marked on.
so if you want to put the first picture up, I'll show you more or less. Okay, so over here we have a screen porch, and then the septic tank is right here, and drain fields are all over here.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay. Open it up to the public.
Erica Pettis again, 885 Northeast 113th Street. I'm the neighbor directly across the street, so I would be looking at her shed, and I'm here to tell you I don't have a problem with it. I have the same exact lot as her, only on the other side of 8th Court. So that shed is actually the back of her property. I don't know why you guys keep saying the front. The 113th Street is running along this side, and Northeast 8th Court is running that way. So it's a one-way street coming, okay, anyway, I don't have a problem with it. She has plenty of landscaping there. It's small, it's not humongous. I've talked to the neighbor on the back side also, and she said she didn't have a problem with it. Our houses, the side yard is our backyard.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public?
George Rosu, 11311 Northeast 8th Court. So it's across of the property of Mariana and Aisha. I have nothing against that shed. I look over, and with the new hedges, what they have over there, you know, it's nothing wrong. If they need to use that, they should be able to.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Tom Firstel, 11220 Northeast 8th Court. Been a neighbor of Mariana and Amy for the last 4.5 years. Know their daughter Ava, and terrific neighbor. Their property is just beautifully landscaped. All of the new work that they've done, and I really encourage the commission to vote for a variance in this case. I would strongly support it. All of our neighbors do.
Thank you, Tom. Gary?
Eric Hill, 111th Street. I get very concerned when we set these kind of precedents. What hasn't been mentioned is this is a new pool. It doesn't even have water in it yet. And during the planning for that, there was the opportunity to address this. And now that the pool's in, coming back and trying to make allowances for this shed, just on the mere basis of giving a variance to an oversized shed without the proper setbacks, I think is a mistake. And every time we allow this sort of departure, we set a precedent for the next person and the next person to do this. The idea that there's nice landscaping there today doesn't mean it'll be there forever. The idea that 3 neighbors are fine with it doesn't mean the next owners of the house or everybody else on the block is fine with it. It isn't what's there today. It isn't this one instance. It's what happens in the future when we don't stick to our own codes and rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Motion, discussion? Who wants to start?
I do.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Can I ask Gage a question?
Sure.
Yeah. Gage, I'm sorry, I know you weren't at the meeting, but I gather you're conversant with all the details. Yeah?
Yes.
So where did planning and zoning prefer that shed go?
Well, what's not shown on here is over legal to put sheds in that area. They have over 15 feet of property that is basically just grass now. So when we looked at it,
You mean
there
you're talking
is
about
actually
on the west side?
on the west side, yes. There's no drain field, there's no septic tank. It's perfectly legal, so if you're able to put it in one part of your property, why should you be able to get a variance to put it in another part of your property?
And as far as you know, planning and zoning would have been okay with this if it had been smaller?
No, I can't speak for that. Plus also, I need to address that. If you do look in your literature.
Yeah, I thought it said that.
It says here that the walls of the shed are 8 feet. That's the walls, not even including the roof. So this notion that it's a small little shed is not really fitting in
Right,
with the facts.
it says that the shed could have been 8 by 6 instead of 8 by 10. Makes it sound like that would have been acceptable, no?
Well, it's not up to us to make that exception. I mean, our code right now does not allow structures in the side front yard.
Right.
The 30-foot setback set. So we couldn't have said yes or to
Well,
that.
Whose comment is this? It's in quotes. Is that the applicant's comment or?
I'm sorry,
planning
which
and
page are
zoning?
you referring to?
The first page.
Yeah. Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
The way I read that, the two sentences, right, the first sentence says the shed is being placed in the side front yard, and there are other locations on the property, and then also considered an 8 by 6 instead of an 8 by 10.
That sounds like P and Z's position, doesn't it?
But the way I look at it, put it somewhere else, and when you do, consider the size. That's how I read that. It's two separate sentences.
Both, not either or.
Can I comment?
I have a question. You said the walls are 8 feet?
Well, according to the information here in your packet, there's a diagram of the
Right.
shed, and it says walls, 8-foot walls.
But don't we
It doesn't
have
say
a-
8-foot overall height, it says 8-foot walls.
Don't we have on sheds, not accessory buildings, but on sheds, don't we have a height restriction that it can't be over so many feet?
I believe it's, I want to say it's 9 feet off the ground.
So-
Are you sure? I think it was less than that, but.
That's to the peak.
Oh, to the peak.
Yeah, the total height. I know it's in the code, I just, right now, I can't think of exactly what it says. So actually, if the walls, what it's saying, are 8 feet, and you got a pitched roof, it's going to exceed the total height of what our code says, so that's another issue that I'm seeing with this.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute, the variance is as to location, do we know whether the shed complies with the other requirements, the size requirements?
Well, as far as the size goes, it's 8 by 10, so that's less than 100 square feet.
Okay.
And my next question would have been, 8-foot walls, what is the overall height? Because we do have a 9-foot overall height limit. So there's that issue too. But the variance request in front of you is actually for I believe, the location of the shed.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson, other comments?
To the applicant, I do.
Okay. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
I have an actual picture that I received from, because I had already bought it, so. And it's up for sale, if anybody, I didn't put it in the package because I just received them yesterday.
There is one.
Because I had to order from like Georgia before I knew it wasn't gonna be approved.
Okay, so Commissioner Anderson, you had questions for
Right,
Amy?
right. Do you know the total height of?
No, but I could get that for you. It's a shed that's allowed, I mean, I gave the measurements, and it's hurricane-proof, and it's a regular shed. It's allowed everywhere in Dade County. I don't know if Biscayne Park has a specific,
We do.
different, so.
We do. Not as far hurricane, but as
Yeah,
far
I
as
mean,
size.
I could get the exact
11.7.
measurements tomorrow, but it's not a high roof, it's 8, and then if you see it on the pictures, it's very low pitch.
All right,
No.
well, let's, for this conversation, let's,
Well, I'm going off something
yeah,
different.
let's stick to the location, and then to the extent, I mean, it's gonna
Maria,
have to comply
can you
with-
go back to the slide that shows the location of where the shed is? Yes.
After?
It's way after that.
After that one.
Keep going. Bear with us, because this way, what I wanted, some of the questions I have, this way, you know, we're all looking at the same thing.
Is the black and white one?
Just keep going. Yes, yes. No, keep going.
You're looking at the plan, it was at the beginning.
The survey? You want the survey?
Oh, the survey, we didn't find the survey.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, I've got the survey, but I mean, I don't think she has it on the slides.
Is that?
Is this one on?
I don't know.
So Bob, can you start your?
Well, what I wanted to, the question I have is where the shed is located. Can that shed be moved over closer to the side, to the house?
Yeah, it could be as long as I leave some space to go around, because since I don't have a backyard, I'm gonna go back, back there through the back or through the front.
Okay, good, we have that.
Okay.
What I'm looking at.
So instead of the landscaping there, yeah, it could
Right.
be moved to
Be-
the,
Because what it does is it moves it farther away from Eighth.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, it could be moved more towards the house as long as I have some space to go around that. Because, the property, the way it's set up, I go around using both back and front to go to the back, to what I consider my backyard.
now, and the reason you can't put it over where Gage was talking about on the opposite side of the house, what is the reason?
Well, I would be blocking a window from the garage, and I would also, my gas is there, so, it's kind of like, I would have to move the
Can you
gas.
can you point out where some of the
Where
stuff is?
he's saying here,
Right.
I mean, I could put it right there, while I'll have it north from my driveway going in there, which is gonna
Okay, what about back towards, going back toward, lining it up to the back part of that corner of that
I
house?
have a window here, and I have another window here, and I don't have enough space in
In
there.
between them?
And I don't have enough space here either.
Between the
I
windows?
measured it, and unless, they wanna come out and measure themselves,
But between that window, the back window of your garage,
There's no space there.
there's no space for that
I
to
would be
go?
blocking two windows.
No, I mean the last window. If you
And
put
I
it
have
behind
my
it.
gas right here
Right,
as
but
well.
if you go towards the back,
Here.
yeah,
Here?
but coming up on the side of the house, just abutting, just up to the window,
Mayor.
whatever the window is.
Right over here?
Yeah.
I don't think I have, I could put it, but it wouldn't be, it would be against my fence and my
Oh, yeah,
neighbor's.
okay, you can't do that, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
just
Okay.
hold on for 1 second, Bob.
There's two things. One, it's a 9-foot height in our code, and two, when we're moving this around, there are other issues, the distance between the main structure and other issues that may create other issues. Just so everybody knows, it's hard to design it this way, so.
Okay.
I mean, since I consider my side yard my backyard, I took, I looked at the shed requirements, and it was 5 feet from my neighbors and 10 feet from my side, 10 to 15 feet, I don't know. And that's where I put it, considering that that's my backyard, but it's not, because it's a side yard, and it's a front yard, and it's a side yard, I don't know what it is. So, it's where, we hang out, so.
All right, Commissioner Anderson, anything else?
No.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is described as storage, a shed, and a cabana.
Yeah, because I put a nice door on it. I put the same front door. If you look at the picture, I didn't put a shed door that
Right.
looks, because since it was going to be in front of the pool, I didn't want it to look like an ugly shed.
But you're not talking about plumbing.
No, there's no plumbing. It's for towels, toys, anything that does to keep, instead of me walking all around to, It's just a storage for the pool to keep all, water, whatever.
Another question for Gage. Okay.
Okay, why don't we,
Gage, if you would. Do you agree that the places on the west side are not suitable for the reasons Amy just described?
I don't think those are good excuses not to put the shed over on that side.
Because why?
Well, I mean, you have you have 15 feet over there on that side, and they want to do an 8x10 shed. So, I mean, they don't have to put it right up against the window. They do have, you know, room over there to play with it. I'd also like to point out, I mean, I know they comment that they went ahead and bought the shed without a permit, but they also had to get a variance for the pool. So it's kind of like they knew that this was an issue before, so
Okay.
some clarity there.
Anything else? No. All right.
I have a question. Gage, I was trying to remember the variance, but didn't have time to go back and look at it. But what the variance for the pool was because it was beyond the bump out area?
No, the variance of the pool is because a pool is considered an accessory structure like the shed is. So you're not allowed to have accessory structures in the side front setback. So being precedent in the park is that residents like this that have cornered lots, we've allowed them to put pools in their side fronts because of the hardship of not being able to put a pool anywhere else on their property. So, you know, a pool being below ground is less obtrusive to your neighbors than a shed, you know, 9 feet high.
Has a slab been poured for the shed? No. No, so that would make it higher than...
It's 9 feet from grade, actually.
Commissioner Ross?
When we were looking at the pool and we approved the variance for the pool, I believe that the board recommended approval of the variance.
Yes.
Okay. Some of these pictures, it looks like the shed is aligned with the surface of the pool, and in some pictures, it looks like the shed is a little bit further to the east. So I'm not sure where exactly the placement is intended to be.
I don't, well, according to the drawing here, it's saying 5 feet from the property line, and there's a 9-foot parkway there. I believe, if I remember correctly, the variance for the pool was 10 feet from the property line to the
Okay.
water line.
So it actually is a little bit further to the east.
Yes,
The pool, but to the water line. Not
to the water line, yes.
Right, so it might be.
Okay.
I mean, I respect what Gary and I think Barbara said. No, okay. What Gary said. I mean, I understand that we have codes for a reason and variances should only be granted under extraordinary circumstances. But I do think that, you know, we live in a small community and we don't need to be that rigid under certain circumstances, particularly when we have a corner lot like this where they really do not have a backyard. You know, we've allowed, through the fence ordinance, we've allowed, you know, variations of that so that people can have a yard that do not otherwise have a backyard. So,
but we also have a community that when you stand at the corner, you look down both streets and all the houses line up. And you don't really have structures in front yards except for carports.
right. You know, the fact that the neighbors are in support of it. I just had one question. You see where for Amy, that palm tree that's to the left of the shed, the large palm tree that abuts against the house? No, the other direction. I know. Is it? What's that? Is that existing or?
Yeah, it's an existing bamboo.
Because if they place the shed there, I don't know if there's room to get to the backyard, but if they place the shed there, would that comply with the code?
That's where the drain
We're
field is.
behind the structure.
Gage, would that?
Well, according to the survey, there's 13 feet between the back of the house or whatever that corner structure is right there to the property line. So 8 feet, you know, if you allowed it up to the property line, then you know you'd have 5 feet there.
But the drain field is located there?
Drain field, septic tank, the only thing there is that thing that sticks out there, it's a bathroom.
Mary, you may want her to come up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can
There's not enough
you come up?
space.
Sorry about that. Just because we're recording.
Right here, this is a bathroom that sticks out. I mean, the layout here is a little different. It sticks out and there's not enough space between the bathroom to put a shed there and then walk through there, you know?
But don't you have, like, sliding doors on the wall facing the pool? No, oh, it's windows, okay.
No, we have French doors here and a door here. So I have a door to get to the pool here, and then I have an entrance here for the pool as well.
So I'm looking at the survey, and it says from your bathroom to your property line, it says it's a little over 13 feet. And if you put the shed in a position where it's 8 feet.
Then I wouldn't be able to walk back here at all. If I put a shed right here.
Right, but it
And then my drain fields are also right here as well.
your drain field's going under your,
There's a,
under
this
what
is
you
for
have planted?
equipment here. Drain field is right here.
Right.
And then you have the drain fields. Also, if they were to break, I would have to move the house.
I think to the extent that we're looking at alternative locations, I think is relevant to see whether they have hardship. But I don't think that we should be trying to redesign the project at this point. I think we should decide whether to
I mean, I can move it.
approve or deny
I can move it in here.
based on the proposed location.
Correct.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion? Nobody wants to touch this? I can't do it.
There's no way that it could be returned in a smaller shed could be purchased?
I'm sorry?
There's no way that the shed could be returned in a smaller one that is not so tall could be purchased?
I'll just offer some comments in that I'm having a hard time reconciling the height of the shed and the property behind it, which will be facing the shed. And I know it's an unusual circumstance when you have those corner properties. If it were a lower profile, maybe I can find a way to find it more accepting. But as much as we want to be accommodating and we want to, we love it when people improve their properties because it helps the whole neighborhood, I'm not sure that we can find that those 4 requirements for the standards of a variance are met. Because there are some options. It could be a smaller shed or lower in height shed, or it could be maybe placed in another area. And that's my opinion. So if, you know, see what else everyone else has to say. We approved the pool before because we understand those special circumstances in the corner lots. And that's my thinking on it right now.
The neighbor to the north, you indicated that they were going to submit a letter, you spoke to them. Is there anything in the file from them, or?
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay. I will make a motion not to approve.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Anderson. Is there a second on that?
I second that.
Second by Commissioner Ross. All right, we'll do a roll call unless anyone has any other further comments.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Amy. If you had not bought this shed and you had listened to this discussion first, would it have made any sense to you to get a smaller, lower shed and put it somewhere else, like over on the west side?
Well, the thing is, when I originally
Mayor, yes, to the microphone, please. Thanks. It's important for the record.
Thank you, thank you.
I mean, originally when I made the plans for the pool, I was gonna put a shed. When I went to building department, they told me that wasn't gonna be a problem. So I would have done all the variants, everything together with the plans before I went ahead, you know, and made the plans for it.
Right, understood.
But, you know, everybody that you ask has a different, you know, question. And then I've even had neighbors like, what do you even bother? Just put it in,
Yeah.
you know? And I like to do things the right way. I know people, and I drive around and I see ugly sheds facing the street with, like, you know, I see really ugly houses that are not being, you know?
Understood, and you're not entirely wrong, but here's what I'm asking you. If you had known before you bought the shed that you should think of one that was smaller and lower, would that have met your need?
Well,
Since it's not a cabana, it's a storage shed, you have a bathroom right there. Could you have used
I
a
mean, if I
smaller,
would,
lower
yeah,
shed?
I guess if I would have known, you know, but at this point, you know, it's either.
Understood.
I mean, thing is that we have a back, I mean, I would never buy a corner property again in Biscayne Park.
They're tough, no question.
It's tough.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is what it is. What do we know? You know?
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I think that the hardship here is the configuration of the lot, so I would support the variance. And if you're going to make your motion, I think he should state on the record his findings, correct?
I'm happy to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Did you make the motion?
No, I seconded.
Okay.
You can articulate that of those 4 criteria, what you found they didn't meet.
Correct.
Sure.
So the criteria that there, if I may, yeah, the criteria that there's special circumstance and condition affecting the property, yes, I think we can all agree that there is a special circumstance. Unfortunately, all 4 standards have to be met in order to approve a variance. And as far as a need to preserve the enjoyment of substantial property rights, I think in the discussion we've shown that there is reasonable enjoyment of the property, particularly with the pool that was installed. The 3rd criteria, that a variance would not be detrimental to others or to public welfare. I believe that, I guess if this motion is approved, it would be the consensus of the commission that it is detrimental and does affect the property rights of surrounding property owners. And the 4th is that the variance proposed is the minimum variance to allow reasonable use of the property. In the discussion, it's been demonstrated or it's been offered that there are alternate sites or perhaps the size of the shed. And so the 4 requirements are not met in these circumstances.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jonas?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
And Mayor Coviello?
No. All right, motion carries 4 to 1. All right, moving on to ordinance 2015-01. We're going to take these together.
Mayor, what I would suggest is the presentation by the manager, their companion. So the manager is going to give, I believe, one overview for 10A, 11A, 11B, 11C, and 11D. So we've announced that. I would like to read the ordinance and have the public hearing for the ordinance. And if you prefer, I can read all the resolutions as well. Just need to be separate motions. So
Well, you can read them all
okay.
together.
I'll read them all together so everybody knows what we're talking about. And if you have comments on either the ordinance or the resolutions that I'm about to read, you would come up when the mayor invites you up after I read the items. So the first item is 10A. It's ordinance 2015-01. And this is second reading of an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, authorizing the borrowing of money in an amount not to exceed $350,000 for the purpose of financing a portion of the village's cost for the total amount to fund the balance of restoration of the historic Village Hall log cabin, providing for an effective date. That's request to approve and ratify. 11A is Resolution 2015-08. That's a resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, pledging a portion of the village's half-cent sales tax revenue from the state of Florida as collateral for a loan with City National Bank, providing for an effective date. 11B is Resolution 2015-09. That's a resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, authorizing the use of the net proceeds from the sale of surplus vehicles to fund a portion of the cost of the restoration of the historic Village Hall log cabin, providing for an effective date. 11C is Resolution 2015-10, and that's a resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, establishing a debt servicing fund and appropriating $2,700 per month from the general fund to transfer to the debt servicing fund, providing for an effective date. 11D is Resolution 2015-11, a resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute the loan agreement between City National Bank and the Village of Biscayne Park to fund a portion of the restoration of the historic Village Hall log cabin in the amount of $350,000 at an interest rate of 4.25% for 15 years, providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you. Madam Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. If you recall, the village charter requires that an ordinance be read at 2 readings at a public meeting for the borrowing of funds. This is our 2nd reading of this ordinance. The charter says the commission shall not borrow funds unless it's approved by 4 commissioners, provided the commission has first received and approved a feasibility study from the manager concluding that sufficient revenues are available to repay the indebtedness and the funds are borrowed for a valid purpose. The ordinance that you have in front of you, Ordinance 2015-1, addresses all 3 of those requirements. If you recall, we had a lengthy discussion at the last meeting regarding the need for this money as well as the ability for the village to carry this loan. There were some concerns expressed regarding the examples of funding sources that were used in the feasibility study. What I can tell you, and with confidence, that both in this year and the following year within our budget, that we do have the room to carry this loan. If the loan was to close, the loan, first payment of the loan is required 6 months after the loan closing. If the loan was to close in the month of March, the first payment would be due this fiscal year. Due to salary savings, the timing of the commencement of the annual leases to purchase new police vehicles, savings in our contingency, increase in state revenue sharing, and increased revenue from the sale of surplus equipment as some examples, we do have the ability to pay the loan at least 1 payment just this fiscal year, which would be required. The fiscal year ends on September 30th. If it was to be paid in next fiscal year, it would be our responsibility to provide that in preparation of next fiscal year's budget. Staff is here to answer any other questions the commission may have. We also have Mariano from City National Bank here. I just want to touch on a couple points for the resolutions, if I may. For Resolution 2015-08, which is the pledging of a portion of the village's half-cent sales tax revenue. The finance director and I were reviewing the revenue today, and we are at a 7% increase of what we budgeted for this year after our first quarter payment. So we are bringing in 7% more at this point, more than we anticipated last year when we were doing the budget. And regarding 11C, Resolution 2015-10, which establishes a debt servicing fund, the finance director and I were also speaking about transferring a year ahead, so we are always covered for payments, and using some of those savings that I mentioned this year to set up our debt servicing fund, so in future years we're always funding for the next year's payment, which I think is very fiscally prudent and responsible of us. And again, like I said, myself, our finance director, our village attorney, as well as Mariano from City National Bank are here for any questions.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to take ordinance 2015-01 first.
Correct, but you can open it up
Right.
for everything.
For everything, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
We
so
can take it all as a unit?
yes, but we need to vote on it separately. Okay,
The
so
only thing that needs to be separate are your votes.
all right, so we'll open it up for all the items that were just read. Public comment?
Barbara, Barbara Kuehl, 111th Street. I have a question about 11A, Resolution 2015-8. In the backup material, they didn't really have specifics, and it says that you're pledging a portion of the village's half-cent sales tax revenue as collateral for the loan. So what is the amount that is being held as collateral? And can we use that money, or I'm assuming if it's being held as collateral, we can't use that money for projects we would have used the money for. And how will that impact our projects for this road projects, I don't know, whatever it's used for?
Okay. Staff address that.
So the portion that we would be pledging would be to cover our annual payment, which would be about $2,700 a month or $30,000 a year, using round numbers. That portion we would not be able to use. Using our projections for 2014, as an example, we received $216,850 in the half-cent sales tax. So only $30,000 of that would need to be set aside as collateral, and that we would not be able to use. As I mentioned before, there's been so far this year a 7% increase in that. If that 7% increase is consistent throughout the year, I believe when I did the calculation earlier today, that's about $16,000 or $17,000 per year. So we're already halfway there. And as far as making up for any holes in the budget, we are ahead right now in our budget. Besides the $74,000 that we're asking to be reallocated towards the log cabin restoration project from the surplus sale of vehicles, we're also ahead in our surplus sale of vehicles and equipment for the year as well. So I'm very comfortable that there's areas to make up that difference between pledging that portion of $30,000 and putting it aside and finding that excess in our budget.
Okay. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing.
All right, Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
Chuck Ross, 11166 Griffin Boulevard. I'm going to address these comments to Barbara Watts. Barbara, to the mayor, have you changed your opinion about your vote since the last meeting?
Wait, Chuck, wait. No, you just make your public statement.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I want to make a statement. In the last meeting, her vote was no. Is that is it inappropriate to ask her that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay. It's a public meeting. I listened to the December 9th meeting where the commission voted to accept the $833,000 proposal to construct the building annex. The options and the costs were crystal clear. A discussion to reduce the cost and move the police to the Public Works building was voted down. A discussion to only build a portion of the project and complete it at a later date was voted down. The vote was unanimous after some discussion to both keep the police at the new village hall and to complete the project in full. Again, the result of the discussion was unmistakable. There would be a requirement to borrow. At that meeting, we talked about $400,000. The manager has subsequently reduced the cost to $350,000. There could be no misunderstanding about where we're at that meeting. And the vote was unanimous to go forward with the project. Subsequent to that meeting, construction commenced on the annex. Not to beat a dead horse, but at the end of the meeting, there was only one conclusion to draw upon. The commission had committed to borrowing sufficient funds to keep the police at Village Hall and complete the project in full. I listened to Barbara's questions at the February 3rd meeting regarding the borrowing of the funds. As she asked the question, she was on to the next question, sometimes before she got the answer to the last question. It was clear to me that it seemed to be irrelevant that every question you asked was answered. The answers were both reasonable and persuasive. However, you made it clear to me that you didn't seem to care whether you were persuaded or not. Why? I don't understand. I mean, you had already decided at the time when the project was voted upon that we were going to have to borrow money, but now you were against it. It seems to me that someone had influenced you subsequent to the meeting. I hope not. On the, I think you need to acknowledge that the December 9th meeting, you made a conscious decision that resulted in the necessity to borrow money to properly complete the project. In fact, you were one of the forces that caused the project price to increase because there was talk about whether or not we move the police to the annex or move her away. We could have saved approximately $150,000 possibly if we had moved the police to the Public Works building, but that wasn't the consensus. So consequently, the cost of the project went up, and that cost of the borrowing went up. I would just add that all of the residents that spoke at the meeting were in full agreement with the end result. Borrow the money to build the annex with the police department, and properly, build the annex with the police department, and properly and completely rehabilitate the log cabin. And I'll just make one further point if you allow me. I know my time is up.
Yeah,
4.25% is an excellent rate of interest to borrow. I have two clients, and this is real world examples. In May of 2014, I have a client that borrowed $3 million. and his interest rate was 4.1%. Now, since then, last month, I had a different client that borrowed $1.5 million. These, by the way, these are both on existing operating buildings, clients that have excellent credit ratings, been in business for 25, 30 years, and that interest rate was 5.05%. So 4.25% for 15 years is, in my opinion, cheap money.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Chuck, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close that and entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2015-1 on second reading.
And I'll second that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. Discussion?
Yes, I had a few questions on this, and I sent an email to our manager, and I think she explained it very clearly in the email and alleviated my concerns.
Excellent. So you're set.
I'm all set.
All right. Any other further comments? Commissioner Watts, anything further?
Yeah. Certain things may have just flown by me, but I just wish that we had discussed this during the budget hearings. If the shortfall was apparent then and we didn't discuss it and budget for it. This is what just upsets me. I see that we have no choice but to go ahead with this loan because we need to complete the project, but I'm just uncomfortable with the way it came about and was discussed. If I had really fully realized that we were going to take out for $350,000 or $400,000, I would have said, let's wait on the police station and keep it in the Public Works building. The only other thing, and I've talked with the village manager about where all the money was coming from, and she's answered all of my questions. But what I'm worried about is saddling Biscayne Park with this debt. And the rosy picture of our income getting greater, the taxes ad valorem, things increasing, I can't help it but my Irish doom and gloom. I just keep thinking, what happens if there is another downturn in the economy and we're going to be saddled with this debt? So that's just my concern because it is a very serious thing. But being that we can't, I mean, it would not behoove us to turn back and reject that $100 million. I think we have no choice but to go ahead. Yeah, please.
I know I can't really sway you at this point, but if I can just try to make you feel more comfortable. Our loan gives us the opportunity, this is something I totally forgot to discuss this afternoon with you. Our loan gives us the opportunity to pay it off after 5 years. Mm-hmm. And the rosy side of it is, if we keep on this upward trend, perhaps we can easily pay that off with taking a little chunk from the reserve or something, but unsaddling ourselves of that loan 5, 6, 7 years down the road. You know, it is a 15-year loan commitment, but we do have that option for early repayment after 5 years without penalties. So, you know, I always try to look at it from those optimistic all angles. And yeah.
Well, I still wish it were less. I think when you don't have money, you should tighten your belt, and we could cut some other things out of the budget. But that said, I know what the vote's going to be, so we won't waste time.
Yeah, it's just that, you know, the village has gotten by to a large extent on receiving monies from either grants or monies from the state, the county, and at some point we have to take responsibility. And when you consider it's a relatively small percentage of the overall cost of the project that we're actually paying for. The rest was free money. So I think it's, you know, comes to a point where we need to take some responsibility for the village. All right, so further comments?
Yeah. Just to follow up on that, this is a building that's going to be up for 80 or 100 years. And spreading the cost or the village's cost for that improvement over a 15-year period and possibly even shorter, 5-year period, is, I think, very fair for the residents 5 and 15 years from now that are going to be served by that facility as well. I had a question that I didn't ask before, and I hope I'm not going to upset, it's not going to change my vote, but when Barbara Kuehl spoke about the half-penny sales tax, is that a restrictive revenue? Are we required to use it for certain?
Unrestricted.
Unrestricted full use. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion, a second, roll call.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes?
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jonas?
Yes.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
Mayor Coviello?
Yes. Motion carries 4-1.
5-0.
Oh.
I told you I was going to do it.
Unanimous.
My mistake. 5-0.
Commissioner Watts? Commissioner Watts?
Yeah?
Yeah, she said she was going to vote yes.
I told you I
She
would.
said she was.
Last meeting. I
All
don't
right.
like it. I'm kicking and screaming, but I'm voting.
Thank you. In all sincerity, thank you for participating and trusting the process, because I know we spent a lot of time on it today.
Yeah.
Thank
All right,
you.
let's move on to
I make a motion
yes.
that we approve Resolution 2015-8 with regard to the half-penny sales tax.
Second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I make a motion on Resolution 2015-09.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Jonas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 2015-10.
10. I make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Vice Mayor Jonas. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. And
Resolution 2015-11.
Second.
Got a rhythm going.
This is too confusing. Motion by Commissioner Anderson. Who seconded it?
I did.
Fred.
Fred. Vice Mayor Jonas, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Wow.
Thank you.
All right. We are on our way. 2015-12.
This is a resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, ratifying the selection and appointment of board members to the Parks and Parkway Advisory Board, providing for an effective date.
All right, Madam Manager.
Mayor, this first resolution is for our Parks and Parkway Advisory Board. You have ballots in front of you. And as is customary, you would circle your 5 members, then I'll tally the votes.
Okay.
Can we have a comment?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. We received notice this afternoon of one of our planning and zoning members who's resigned. And although we're not dealing with that particular board this evening, there is an application under Park and Parkways by Victor Recondo, who had also an interest in serving on the P&Z or code boards.
Yep.
Mr. Recondo is an attorney who works in the area of real estate and land use, and I think that he might be the perfect candidate to fill that now empty seat on P&Z. I reached out to him this afternoon and left him a voicemail message, but I did not hear back from him. So just would you, if the commission would consider, I guess it could be appointed to the Park and Parkways Board as it's lined up right now and moved over, or we could address it in April when that opening comes to us.
Okay. So the Planning and Zoning Board is not up tonight.
No, I'm bringing that back with the change to the ordinance.
But to
But
the extent
there's-
there's an opening, we could put that back on the next meeting to appoint that person?
Planning and Zoning Board's coming back before you next meeting.
Oh, okay.
It's not here today. At the last meeting, if you remember, I'm working on changing the ordinance because there's 2 separate ordinances.
Okay.
So John, it would actually, the appointment would be in 2 meetings after second reading of the ordinance, or could they do the appointment during first reading?
You can do that appointment during first reading because if you approve that ordinance, it'll be fine.
I mean, I agree, I would prefer to move Victor to that other board, to the Planning and Zoning Board, based on his expertise, and there's a need.
Mayor, there might be other people interested in that position too, in all fairness.
Maybe
Okay.
he should be considered for this board, and then should he want to be on that board, he can resign from this board.
That's true.
Okay, all right, why don't we do that?
Why
Why
don't
don't
you
we
see where the
vote?
votes fall?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we vote as it's on the petition?
Thank you for having it as ballots. It makes it a lot less messy.
Oh.
Thank you.
And if someone is on, voted for all.
I don't follow instruction well. I don't follow instruction well.
But if someone applies for two boards, the one, how do we choose?
All set? Bob, did you vote?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Barbara, are you all set?
Just one second, I left my list.
Oh. I fixed it. It's fine.
What was your fire bar? Yeah. So just give me Parks and Park.
Your 5 board members for the Parks and Parkway Advisory Board is Dan Keys, Barbara Kuhls, Kimberly Missick, Robert Silverman, and Randy Wagner.
All right, congratulations. All right, the remaining, well, we'll take one at a time, but
So we need a motion to approve the resolution?
yes, I'm sorry.
I make a motion we approve resolution 2015-12 on the Park and Parkways Board.
All right.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. 2015-13.
I will make a motion that we,
No, your balance first.
But there's only
it's only 4,
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
I
Okay.
make a motion that we approve them as presented.
Okay.
4 members.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Resolution 2015-14.
I make a motion that we accept the 5 applicants and approve the resolution as presented.
I'll second that.
Mayor.
Rosemary,
Mayor.
would you be a full-time member as opposed to an alternate?
No.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Excited.
What?
Mr. Hahn has been here the whole meeting with his very well-behaved son.
I'm sorry.
I noticed tonight. I thought it would be nice if you could at least address the
course.
commission
I
before you
didn't
make your
realize
motion, yes.
Of course.
You want to go to the podium?
Sure.
Yeah.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah.
No, it's all right, guys. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I've Andrew Hahn and my son Parker here. We're over on 111th, just at the end of the 8th court. I've been in the village for about 6 years now. I'm involved with the PTA. I've been on the board for 2 years over at Miami Shore, so I'm involved with a lot of the community. I helped ESL out before, and I'm ready to help out with whatever else you guys need if approved. So, anything?
Great. I appreciate you.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
I promise I won't break anything on property. For those of you who know, that's what my son does here at Biscayne.
No, Parker is the best. We love him, especially when he helps us clean the field.
All right, Andrew,
Thank you.
thank you for sticking around.
No problem.
All right, so let's go to, where were we? Recreation no, public art?
I don't think
Recreation advisory.
Okay, recreation advisory.
We have a motion, maybe a second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner
Right.
Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
No, does not. 4-1.
You voted no?
I'm voting no.
Oh, did you want to discuss?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, resolution 2015-15. There's only three appointments, reappointments on there.
Four.
There's four? Because I thought he was already appointed.
Yeah, but then shouldn't it be
He's
both?
been appointed on a different board.
Oh, that's true. You're right. You're right.
Tom, you want to serve on two boards or just one?
No, he can't.
No, you can't.
Oh, you can't?
can't.
Can't, but
Okay,
then
I'm
it
sorry.
should be his choice.
Ecology.
You want to choose?
Now, where would you like?
What,
It's up to you.
what best fits you?
I'm interested in the art is more in line, I suppose, with my interest.
Well, he's also got a son too, so you could, I mean, I told him if he got my spot that I'd help him out anyway.
No, but
your
it seems
son's
like
taken care of.
Marty did an art, so.
Okay, right now, you were appointed to the ecology board. Would you rather be on the art board instead?
No, I'd be happy to stay on the college.
Okay, beautiful.
Okay, well, wait a minute, well.
So you're not resigning already, huh?
Tom Flisk we couldn't get a hold of, but he might still want to be on it.
Who?
Tom Flisk on the ecology board. He's
Oh,
just-
yeah.
They did reach out to all the board members.
I know.
All right.
We can do it at a later date if we get the
Okay,
application.
so I made a motion to go ahead and appoint the three remaining candidates to the Public Art Advisory Board.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Ross. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 5-0. All right. Old business, item 12A. Madam Manager, do you want to introduce the item?
I'll just do a quick introduction and then I'll hand it over to Gage. The Code Review Board has been working for a number of years on changes to Chapter 5. In the recent months, we've had 3 meetings, one a public workshop and 2 joint board meetings between the Parks and Parkways Board and the Code Review Board in the interest of moving forward with these changes and bringing it to the commission. If I could summarize the code changes, I would put them into 3 categories. You have changes to what landscaping is permissible in the swale, public right-of-way portions of a property. You have changes regarding who is responsible for the removal of dead or diseased trees within the swale. And then you have the requirement of parking on an approved surface. I would include the site triangle in the discussion of the swale of what is allowed to be planted and not planted in the swale. There was a proposal that had been made by the Code Review Board, and after input from the public at the first meeting and subsequent more discussion between the board members, there were significant changes made to what is allowed in the swale. I'm not sure if we are ready from my professional point of view to go forward with those recommendations of what isn't allowed in the swale. Both the village attorney and I have discussed them, and we have concerns, and there's a memo in your backup from the village attorney regarding this, regarding the enforceability of some of those changes and how that would play out and tax our code compliance department. I do think some of the other changes are significant and should be considered by the commission once you're comfortable with the language, and that's who is responsible for the trees in the swale. And I would guide you to think about that from, is the language proposed or the language that will be proposed legally defensible? And that's really what it comes down to. Can the village protect itself in a court of law if we are taken to court over the responsibility of that tree in the swale? And I think also the parking on an approved surface is a great improvement to the village. If you recall, at our strategic planning session last March, that was one item that we discussed as a commission and staff regarding the improvements to properties that could make, and generally assist in bringing up property values and the overall aesthetics and curb appeal of our streets. So that is my summary, and I'll definitely hand it over to Gage if you want to add anything else to it. Gage says he's good.
Gage, are you done with this?
Gage has been really working closely with us and getting it to the commission, understanding that part of the process.
All right. So the categories that I wanted to divide it up. So the landscaping and objects in the swale is one, parking and driveways is the other, and then the maintenance and liability, or the removal of dead trees is the third.
Yes.
Are those the three that you have?
That's how I would summarize it.
Why don't we? I think we should take one at a time, and perhaps we start with the parking and the removal of dead trees, because I think those, in my mind, are important and really what precipitated this whole exercise. And then we can go to the objects in the swale, because I know that's the more controversial one, and perhaps we're not ready to move forward on that. But at least let's take one at a time. So why don't we start with the off-street parking?
Mayor, what number is that one?
That's section 5.6, page 9 of 12. It starts on the bottom of that page. Found it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So comments on the parking and the driveway section.
Okay.
Sure. Want to start?
Since what this is saying, it's got to be on an approved material. I'm concerned that we have some driveways that, my understanding, were permitted and put in and permitted, but is not on the approved material that is stated now. And what I'd like to see in there is to have some wording that if it was permitted within the last 5 years, they would be exempt from complying with the approved parking surface provision for a period of 10 years. So it doesn't impact those people that legally did put a driveway in legally, but it doesn't fall under the criteria that says that what you have now.
So if they have to produce evidence that it was legally permitted?
Correct.
Okay.
And then if it was, to give them a 10-year window
As
for
opposed
compliance.
to 1 year?
Correct.
Okay. I'm in agreement with that. I mean, just out of curiosity, what type of driveways are
I've heard, like I say, whether they have a permit or not, but what I heard was this person put in a mulch driveway out of mulch.
And that was permitted?
That's why, staff would have to go ahead and, back up. But if it is a permitted driveway, or there might be other ones that I'm not aware of, as long as it was legally permitted, to go ahead and allow them to be exempt from this for the 10 years. If it wasn't legally permitted, then, they would have to comply.
Okay. Any other comments on that section? No, but just from Commissioner Anderson?
Let's see, let me get into this other one. It says 5.6.1. Off-street parking shall be provided within lot.
I'm missing a page.
I'd like to see something in there that they could go ahead and somebody could have a variance where they couldn't do this. Because we do have some really oddball lots, especially on some of our cul-de-sacs, that actually the lot comes to a point by the street. And it would be really difficult to go ahead and to have, you know, off-street parking on some of those.
Okay. This section doesn't say that you can't get a variance. Does our variance section permit, is there limitations as to what you can get a variance from, or is it a broad?
Well, it's traditionally set back. You can do materials, so it would probably
It
cover.
doesn't limit it specifically.
This doesn't prevent you from going to a variance under something like a setback or material.
I just want to, I just want to make sure, because, like I say, we're not uniform with the shapes of our lots. I want to make sure that this isn't going to be hard and fast, that somebody can't do that.
Okay. Any other comments on that section?
Yeah, I have.
Not on the 5.6.
5.6? Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Commissioner Watts.
Yeah. I'm just wondering about the wording on A2. When an approved driveway surface does exist, all vehicles shall park on said driveway upon enactment of this ordinance. Does that mean all vehicles of residents of that property, or would it also mean all guests who come and visit?
Yeah, the bottom line is, and this is very important to me, we don't want people parking their cars up to their front door on their front lawn.
I know, I agree.
And so whether it's a resident or a guest, it doesn't matter. I mean, vehicles need to be parked on an approved driveway surface. That's my decision.
And not in the medians.
Well, I'm just thinking of people who have like a party for a graduation or something like that, and there's nowhere to park. And for an occasional thing, people do park on the medians because it's a big party, or they'll have to park on the, then also if a person, some people have their swales actually with grass, so it extends the space of the front yard. And they've got enough driveway space for maybe 3 or 4 vehicles, but if there more people come, they have to park on the grass.
Right, I mean, we can't.
And I don't want them to be.
We can't legislate like every particular example, but I think everyone's reasonable here, and I think if you had a large party and you need to park on your front lawn or the swale, you can notify the village, and that's the type of situation where I think we could just work it out.
Okay.
Because usually it's been, especially parking on the medians, usually as long as that person notifies our police department.
Well, we actually have created, if you recall, when we did the fee schedule, that we asked them to put down a deposit to ensure that if there was any damage to the median as well. So we kind of put some checks and balances in place.
Because I haven't seen a problem with it at all.
All right, I just want to go one by one. So you're.
Okay. Well, see, I do have a problem with that, because I think that a lot of people, residents I know, will be, angry about that, and they'd say, "What? How can I damage the median? It's not even grass there. It's not sod. It's just green weeds that gets mowed. So how can you be damaging it?" So I'm just a little worried about that. Then one other thing on 5.63. Under it said, oh no, I'm on the wrong page. 568 design standards for off-street parking. Could we go there yet, or is that?
Change it.
I'm sorry. Which section? What page?
Page 11 of 12.
Page 11 of 12, 5.6.
8. Okay.
H?
8.
Oh, 8, I'm sorry.
Okay, and going on to the following page.
Yep.
And I know this was part of the old code. I believe it was. Vehicles shall be parked on impervious or pervious surfaces, but impervious areas shall not exceed 40% of the front yard, excluding the right-of-way. And I think I've seen many front yards that follow this, because they've concreted so much of it, but it really, 40% of the yard, excluding it, and if they put concrete or pavers on the right-of-way as well, that's an awful lot of the yard that's covered with pavers or driveway surface, I think.
Okay.
I'd rather have it 40% of the yard, period, and not including the swale.
But you're
including the swale.
Okay, Commissioner Ross.
With regard to the parking spaces and the number of spaces, if they're visitors, there's a chart in here that has a minimum number. So, if you have a Super Bowl party and 8 cars come, you just need to have a minimum of 1 visitor parking space. And there'll be some kind of accommodation for the other vehicles. My question.
Sure.
Commissioner Watts. The section that you're reading right now is referring to off-street parking. So it's 40% of the front yard, not including the right-of-way. But if you go back in the chapter, it actually addresses the right-of-way, and it calls out you can't be over 40% in the right-of-way. Right. So it technically is from the street to the house 40%. It's just it's covered in two different sections here. Right now, what you're addressing is off-street parking, which is on the property.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Gage.
I had a question for Mr. Hearn. If you have any concern about, can you give us any concern about this particular section about the parking and driveways? And in particular, the very last paragraph of that section, which is 5.6.8H, there's an indemnification clause.
Yeah. I can tell you that's what cities require, because it's your right of way, and there have been issues sometimes when we're not in control of the people that are actually doing the construction there, and if anybody gets hurt on our property, that's I don't have a concern about that legally, and I can tell you that is what most of the cities that I deal with have. So requiring that indemnification.
So in practice, it would be during the permitting process that
That's right.
Property owner signs an indemnification?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And a lot of places actually require an insurance, and this doesn't, that I see, so it's a little more lenient, really.
And so do you have any other concerns about the section on parking and approved parking surfaces?
No, actually, on the parking, I didn't have much of an issue at all.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I think this addresses a significant problem in the village, so I'm fully in support of this. The only thing I would say is that I think giving people a year, if they don't have an approved driveway surface, I would be comfortable extending that to 2 years. A year is not that long of a period. But other than that, I support it as drafted.
Mayor, I do have a couple of other questions that came up. On page 10B.
What page?
10, page 10.
Okay.
Item B, where this requirement cannot be met by multifamily properties while maintaining a 10-foot landscape area in front of the building, a variance may be obtained from the planning board for the purpose of this section. Multifamily refers to units that are two-family duplexes or more. What, it's not clear in my mind is what is this 10-foot landscape area? And if they can get a variance, are they getting a variance so they don't have to put anything in there? Or are they getting the variance for they don't need to have the landscape area? And then also, this landscaping then evidently is only for duplexes. What about single-family homes? To me, it's not clear.
Gage, you want to speak to that?
What page is he? 10?
This section was added because there was a number of duplexes in the village where, because of the requirement of the number of parking spaces for a duplex, they have very small front yards, and so if we strictly enforce this, the driveway, they would basically take out their front yard because they would end up having to pave across a good portion of the front yard. Single-family homes have less requirements for number of parking spaces as opposed to duplexes. Like if you go up 9th Court, what is this one right here? You have a very good example of duplexes that if we required them to park on their property, there would be basically no landscaping in front of the duplex. So this was designed or proposed to try and to give those people a little bit of a break so that they would be able to maintain some kind of landscaping as well, and then but come into compliance with the number of parking spaces.
So the landscaping is only required in front of duplexes. And what this variance would be is they don't necessarily have to have parking spaces, off-street parking spaces for what's required for the number of units in that duplex.
They could apply for that variance, yes.
So the variance would be exempting them
from the strict interpretation of the code, which means parking, all the number of required parking spaces on the property.
Right.
Which in turn could turn around and eliminate their landscaping, all landscaping.
Okay. I do have another question that the chart for the number of parking spaces, whether it's you know, for single-family homes or, you know, which the whole chart. Is that where everybody's got to have that, or is that for new construction?
This is,
But
no,
that's
this
it-
is
that's
for everybody.
that's
This is,
existing in the code.
first of all, this is existing in the code, and everybody is required, old construction or existing construction or new construction, to provide parking spaces on their property.
Okay, because then really it hasn't been really being enforced, because we have a number of old houses here that hasn't fall under this.
Okay.
So-
It depends on when it was, if it was legally built, when it was built, and if.
5.6.6.
That's not correct.
Come up, come up.
5.6.6, which was always there. It says existing non-conforming minimum off-street parking requirements. The number of off-street parking spaces existing on properties at the time of the adoption of this code, although such number does not conform to the minimum off-street parking requirements hereof, may be lawfully continued.
Right, so legal
So-
non-conforming use.
So you are, to me, this B doesn't make sense, because you're saying you're giving them a variance for not complying when they don't have to comply to begin with. Because of our houses, you have some houses that don't have driveways, that have been, they're just odd-shaped lots, or it might have been a duplex that's been turned into a single family. They don't have a driveway, they park on the swale. And this is saying, the 5.6.6 is saying that you do not have to now provide the number of parking spaces.
But it's the number of the number of spaces. There's a distinction between that and then having an approved driveway surface.
Okay, to me,
Like in other words, the B where it says that you can get a variance. That's from.
I don't
That's
know what
referring to the
Driveway
approved
surface.
driveway surface, correct?
to me, it's not clear what B refers to.
Well, it says where this requirement cannot be met, meaning A, which is an approved driveway surface. It doesn't speak to the number of spaces.
Well, when he was saying that, yes, the number of spaces now applies to everybody, that you have to.
No, because as you pointed out, you have a non-conforming
But
parking
I
requirements.
don't think to me, B is not clear.
Yep, I agree, because
what
when
it
you,
means.
It's a variance for what? It doesn't tell you what the variance is.
The
I
non-conforming,
understand that,
It-
but as
it says
doesn't
all
mean-
vehicles.
Maybe we need to reference subsection A.
If all vehicle,
Okay, go ahead.
well, if you have to, you have to keep going back to what it's under. It's 5.6.8, design standards. It says all required off-street parking spaces and the use are intended to serve shall be located on the same parcel. And then it goes to all vehicles must be parked on an approved driveway surface. Even non-conforming properties shall have a year of the date to come into compliance. Makes no sense to me. You have to be on an approved driveway surface. But if you don't have a driveway, you don't have to put a driveway in. All you have to do is make sure your car is parked on something that's an acceptable car park.
But that becomes a driveway.
No, if you don't have a driveway, you're allowed to park on the swale, on gravel, on grass. That's in the code. You do not have to I hope that that this commission isn't trying to tell this community that now they have to install driveways if they don't have a driveway.
So you're saying subsection A1, the intent was not to require, if they do not have an approved driveway surface on their property to park vehicles, they do not need to put that within 1 year? That's not the intent of that?
To me, well, that's what I'm saying. This is,
Well, what was the intent?
even,
What was the intent of this?
well, it's mixed. The committee had everybody had different ideas. For me, if you want to park your car in your yard, you have to have an approved driveway surface, which would mean like a driveway with gravel or something. But if you don't have a driveway and you decide not to park your car, maybe you were parking on your grass, and now this comes out, and you decide to park on your swale, you don't have a year to come into conformity.
Well, I disagree. I read that, and I fully support, if you do not have an approved driveway surface on your property to park your car, you need to put one within 1 year.
You
or
think
2 years,
you think
whatever the
every
case.
house should then have to put a driveway in?
Yeah, well, they have
See,
to have an approved.
I personally don't agree with that, because, and that's why I think they're saying that if you don't, 5.6.6. Oh, well.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's what it said, I agree.
But would it be then you can park on the swale if you have an approved driveway surface on your swale?
That-
If your house doesn't have a driveway?
There is some houses that actually,
Yeah.
they're going to have to. That's the only place you can park.
Yeah, and duplexes too. I mean, there's some thing where duplexes are allowed, because it would just ruin the look of the duplexes if they had to put a driveway perpendicular to a bedroom window.
That's why I said, I don't think that even the parking is ready to go. I think there are a lot of issues that still have to be hashed out.
One of the basic problems is this has been pieced together.
We're taping
Sorry.
Perhaps one of the things that we need to consider.
It's been pieced together, and even organizationally, if you look at it closely, there are things under some subheadings that don't belong there. And it hasn't been organized in the right flow where you start with the basic requirement and the exceptions. So that's why everybody's really confused about what it is. I think that's one of the biggest problems with this.
I mean, is the board or the boards still interested in working through this?
I'm
He's shaking
interested.
his head no.
It's been painful and a lot of discussion, and everybody's tired of it, and you're tired when you come to it. But, let's get it right. I think it's important.
And progress has been made, I think.
Yes, it has. At least we know how bad it is now. I think a
Okay.
lot of progress has been made. There's been a lot of compromise. So what really at one time was really overbearing and confusing has been simplified, believe it or not.
Okay. Commissioner Ross.
Okay. I appreciate all the board's work on this and the joint meetings, aside from just the code review board, then there were the joint meetings, and there's been a lot of public discussion about it. But I think that it's time to move it, if we're going to move it, into the hands of the attorney and perhaps professionals who work with the code. Once we have the board's intent, then they can craft the language that is, I mean, for as much time as a lot of people have put into it, and you all have a different disciplines and different experiences that you've brought to the discussion, I think it really needs to be put into the hands of professionals that will craft the language that could then be enforceable.
But this is just one example, but they apparently don't have a consensus as to what this provision means. So either they're going to tell us, or the two boards, or we're going to decide.
I think it should be the commission that gives that direction.
Okay.
I think, we keep kicking it back, and that's unfair. These people have put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and if there's more clarification they want to bring, then, they're welcome to bring it. If they think we're going in a direction that wasn't their intent, okay. There's public opportunity to talk, or...
Okay. He's not a mind reader. He doesn't understand the intent.
All right.
How can he express it?
Mayor?
Okay.
To me, this is one of those things that it seems like each one of us have questions on. What I'd like to do is to have something set up that each commissioner individually can sit down with the board to express their own concerns of some of the language that's on here, and then let the board go ahead and decide which way they need to go. At least they would be getting some direction.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Two things for Gary, Mr. Kuhl. in this, the revisions, is there any statement about those parallel concrete blocks that people have grass in between? Is there anything stipulated?
There's no exception to it, they're allowed.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's somewhere we could put that, make sure it's in there so people know that.
It's an approved surface.
Yeah, but then there's grass in between, so.
Which is fine, we don't disallow it.
Okay, and Commissioner Ross, were you thinking of, like, when you say professionals, someone other than John who works with revising these codes? Or?
I would leave it to the manager to give us a plan of how she thinks, if it could be handled in-house, or if we have to go, to code writers, but certainly the attorney, I think, once we decide what pieces we want to put in place, then the attorney should be involved in that process.
Okay, so why don't we continue the discussion on the parking area so we can finish that and see if we can come to some consensus as to what this particular section. It comes down to really the approved driveway surface and whether we're going to require people to put an approved driveway surface on their property to the extent they don't have one today within 1 year.
So that's the policy decision for us to make.
Correct. But that's really what this section comes down to. I mean, I think they've done an excellent job outlining what an approved driveway surface should be. So it really comes down to that policy decision.
Mayor, you have a resident up here.
Julie, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate you allowing us to come up and speak. An area that I find confusing, Gage, with all due respect, is when I asked this question at the first meeting, again, the duplexes. If they can get exemptions from the required spaces due to a landscaping issue, does that mean then people can park on the front lawns? Again, that's partly selfish on my part, living in the northeast area, but you figure the amount of duplexes through our whole city. And to me, that needs to be extraordinarily clear. Are we saying, okay, you don't have to put in the required number of spaces, but hey, then you better make sure there's a space for the cars you do have, or are we saying they can continue parking on front lawns? So that, I hope you guys will clarify, because that can be a serious issue when you figure the number of duplexes we have here.
Okay.
Mayor, throughout the discussion at the board, there seemed to be a commingling of number of required spaces versus putting on an approved surface. I think you're hearing some of that tonight.
Right.
I think it's important that when we clarify the code, we make sure that it's clear that if one was to get a variance from the number of spaces, that does not include them having to park on an approved surface. And we do have some language in there, but we can continue to try to clarify it. Just throwing something out of a duplex is required to have 6 spaces, but the board requires them to have 4 spaces. They're still required to park on an approved surface.
But the requirement here, subsection B, for subsection B as the multifamily is a variance from the approved driveway surface, not from the number of vehicles. Correct?
We'll have to make sure that language
is what?
clear. We'll make sure the language is clear.
You're saying here?
Okay, 5.61B, where this requirement cannot be met by multifamily properties. It's referring to an approved driveway surface. Correct?
Gage, does the 10-foot, I could not find it anywhere in the code, but the requirement to maintain a 10-foot landscape area in front of the building, is that elsewhere in the code? For multifamily?
No.
So that might be the issue right there. I mean, it might not be, as opposed to rewording this section or placing it in the other, let's talk about, is it the commission's intent to require a 10-foot landscape buffer in front of a multifamily building? Is that historically something we've done? You know, I'm just saying, let's focus on that as opposed to that
I don't know why.
language.
I don't know why we can just eliminate B.
Right.
And to the extent that a multifamily or any other property has a difficulty complying with this, they can come in for a variance.
And we'll just verify, I have a note already to verify that the variance language does allow for
this section or any.
Yeah, this section. But I think deleting B or the intent of B might be helpful to this discussion.
Okay.
And just make everyone come into compliance.
But the larger policy issue is, are we going to make residents who do not have a driveway today comply with this and put one in within a year? That's the policy question. When I say driveway, an approved surface according to these criteria, whether it's paved or turf block or gravel.
That's a good question, because if they have nothing now, and they happen to have one car, and they've had it on an approved surface in the swale area, and it hasn't been a problem yet, to go ahead and say, well, now you're just going to have to put something in your yard. But now the flip side, if you have a duplex and then you got a row of cars all parked down the swale, obviously I don't think any of us would want that. So, you know, how do you accommodate for one vehicle and not force somebody to put a driveway in that they don't have, maybe the way the vegetation is and stuff and the way the yard is set up, that they wouldn't want that.
Well, maybe there's a way, to the extent that they have an approved driveway surface in the swale, and they have the capacity to satisfy the parking requirements for, if it's a single family, the number of bedrooms, if they have the ability to satisfy that on the swale, then maybe there's a potential to.
Well, that's where I do have an issue as far as the parking requirements, to have that all in the swale of what that chart says. I'm not comfortable with that. But if you have an existing home that never had a driveway, and they have an approved, and you only have one car, we're talking about somebody with one car. Not, you know, if you have.
I know, but that can change. You know,
well, when it does, maybe the language could be that you only can have one car in the swale if you don't have an approved, you know, you don't have a driveway. And if you're going to have more than one car, you're going to have a driveway. You know, maybe we can look at it that way.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's very hard to draft for, and again, you know, the intent is, I saw it here when I read it, was getting things off the swale, right? And you only have the mailboxes. So you're the policymakers, but it's changing kind of the direction I saw this going.
Mayor, from a land use law standpoint, I'm not sure you can meet your zoning requirement, how traditional it is to allow you to meet your zoning requirements off your property on the public right-of-way.
If it's in the code, you can do it. I mean, I've seen codes where you can satisfy your parking requirement from on-street parking. You can do
I've seen it in commercial districts. I've never seen it in residential. Yeah.
I'd like to then revisit, go back to some of the duplex streets and see where they are. I'm thinking of the duplex I used to live on, and the parking was in the swale, and there would be no room. It would look absolutely ugly to try to put a driveway in. So, and then there's the whole issue of when some people have circle drives. Okay, so you could fit 3 cars, the amount of required cars on your driveway, but the circle bit would be, they would be parked part way on the swale, because the driveway extends to, continues to the
I mean,
swale.
correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't need to be a traditional driveway. It could be, in other words, it could be a parking space as long as it's an approved driveway surface. So if the duplexes want to put a row of parking in the front of their property, on their property, and it's an approved driveway surface, then that would satisfy the.
I'm just thinking of the house I used to live on, next to George and Karen Marioni. And it would look absolutely horrible to put driveways on that small postage stamp front yard.
I know, but we can't legislate and draft a code based on
Well, I'm thinking
particular
a lot
situation.
of the duplexes. I think it would just, it would make the appearance of each block look, you know, hideous to have driveways or paved surfaces directly in front of a living room or a bedroom, and that's where they'd have to go.
I agree in part with Barbara that those duplexes are sort of unusual situations, and it also depends what street or avenue the duplexes are on. Some of them have deeper, you know, are deeper into where the building structure is, and there might be opportunity to put a driveway, but others have very, very low clearance. So if you accommodated parking in front, you know, off the swale, it would eat up the entire front yard. It really would. I'm thinking of Ninth Court in particular, where we have a row of duplexes on one side.
And I understand it, I guess, but what's the consequence of that is that they're parking on the lawn right up to the front door, or I don't know. I mean,
Well, I'm wondering if maybe we need to break down the application to different streets or different areas, or just with regard to the number of living units in a property, on a property,
that's going to be
the number of living
extremely
units.
difficult to go street by street.
Well, it's better than imposing something that would make the park look
Well,
uglier.
what about,
For example, you wouldn't allow the same kind of parking on 6th Avenue that you would allow somewhere else, you know, even where we live, you know. Even on Griffin, the construction
Right.
is different, the lot sizes are different.
but we're not dictating where the driveway has to go and the configuration of the driveway. It's just that it has to be a certain surface. So, I mean, there's got to be somewhere on the property to retain parking for the uses on the property, so that they'll have to come up with a way that's the most attractive. I mean, I don't know what this. I mean, the alternative is to have them park on the lawn and right up to the front door, right?
on the swale.
Unless they're using the swale for.
Yeah, well, then use the swale.
What code review has done is tried to create some sense of a parking place, something that looks like a place where parking should be. And if we don't want to do that, where do we want people to park? They're going to park someplace. They have cars. So do we want them to park on the grass, in the median? I mean, we have to decide where it's okay for them to park. If we want to say that they should all park on their properties, then we have to give guidance as to what kind of place that is. And I don't really see what's wrong with calling it a driveway and suggesting what kinds of surfaces are acceptable for that. That's where people park.
And that's all we're suggesting.
Right.
All we're requiring is the surface, not necessarily the configuration or the dimensions,
and
the layout.
and the amount of that surface.
Right.
Right. So yes, it's an imposition on some people, but it's where we're trying to go. We're trying to improve the neighborhood.
Mayor?
Yes.
Also, too, the driveway has to be at least 30 inches away from the property line. This is a new driveway. Now, if you take that and look at a corner property, in theory, unless there's a state law or county law, you can come out as your approach going through the swale area 30 inches from your property, which is almost at the corner. Because can you actually have a driveway that close to a corner of an intersection or not? I don't know if we have a county or state law on that.
I'm not aware of any.
This is a corner lot.
The driveway itself,
Right.
is there a stop sign there? If there is-
May or may not be. Yeah.
The only issue is our code calls for a 20-foot site triangle on the side of
Can't-
all
that's number
driveways.
one, yeah.
That's in this section of the code.
But as long as you have, if you had no vegetation there, you just had your driveway coming right out there almost on the intersection.
Okay, so this is just a discussion, so maybe you could look at that issue to make sure that that's acceptable if we move forward with it. So let's get back to the policy decision on requiring an approved driveway surface on the property within 1 year. I mean, we can get bogged down in the details, but I think we need to give direction.
Yeah.
And we're going to have further discussion. It's going to come back.
Okay, Mayor?
Yeah.
They have no, in theory, what we're discussing is a property that has no driveway right now.
Right.
In 1 year, they have to have the driveway put in. Because it's a brand-new driveway, they have to follow then the guidance of what the chart says, or because it's an existing home, it isn't, so it was never designed for anything like that, would they just need to accommodate whatever number of vehicles or vehicle that they have on approved parking space?
I think that there's still legal non-conforming as to the number of spaces. That's my thought. And so they would need to put a driveway in, an approved driveway surface, and comply with the criteria. They wouldn't necessarily need to to bring it up to code with respect to the number of spaces.
Okay, and because they
Because
have.
the house is built, it's a number,
Right.
certain number of bedrooms, this, you know.
But let's say it's a three-bedroom house. But it's, you know, it's a couple living there, and for whatever reason, they just have one vehicle. That's what they've had. So now, we're requiring them to be putting in a driveway. They've been parking in the swale all this time. So now they have to have a driveway. Because would that be considered non-conforming because it wasn't there before? Or would they have to bring it?
What be considered non?
The driveway that was never existing, because they were parking in the swale.
Okay.
So it's a brand new, something put in there. Would they have to follow the ordinances, because it's a three-bedroom house of having X amount of parking spaces, or can they still maintain to have that driveway to accommodate that one car?
Mayor, if I may, I mean, if there's no driveway there, and there's the language currently is you have 1 year to put in that driveway, and then we don't zone based on the residents that exist in that home, we zone, as you see here, based on bedrooms. So.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
And if they couldn't do it, then maybe there's this variance procedure, which our variance procedure would allow. I don't know if you want to make reference to a variance procedure, so it's in there.
I just think that would be a hardship for people that.
And it's not self-created, so I mean,
You know, because our ordinance says it has to be, you can't be parking on a non-approved surface. So that's a given, and I'm all for that. But if that family only had one car, and now we're saying you have to have a driveway, which none existed, to me, I think it's a hardship saying your driveway now, because it happens to have it's a three-bedroom house, along with the visitor part, that driveway, which didn't exist before, has to be big enough to handle all of that.
That was never the intent of what we were trying to say, is that if they did not have a driveway, no matter what the circumstance was,
Right.
that they would have to bring it up.
The number of spaces.
The number of spaces to comply for new development. That's really for new development. It's really, if they had one car or two cars, that they had approved parking surface for the number of cars that they had. So, you know.
Right. So
And the other thing I want to mention is, we have a minimum standard, which is gravel, which is a relatively cheap parking surface, or asphalt. They may not be preferable in terms of the aesthetics, but they're affordable. So I think, even with the boat ordinance, it didn't go down the way it was supposed to, because people came in at the last minute, they got their permit, now they have like another 6 or 7 months to go ahead and put in the approved surface. So what we expected to get done in a certain period of time is now going to take a couple of years. So I think it's another thing to think about. When you say they have 1 year to comply, does that mean they have 1 year to get a permit? Does it mean they have 1 year to actually do it? But 2 years, I think we're going to forget it's even there. That's too long of a period, it really is. But we need to be very precise with that, because I think we kind of missed it when we did the ordinance on recreational vehicles.
All right.
So what I'm hearing is that if you have a three-bedroom house and you're required to have 2 spaces, resident, 1 visitor, 3 spaces, in a new development, new permitting, we're going to require that. But if you have an existing structure, an existing home, we're not going to require the imposition of 3 spaces.
Right.
We would allow for
But
only
then what are we-
1 if it was an approved surface.
But then what are we, so the requirement is, you within 1 year, you have to put in a approved driveway surface, but we're not going to require the required number of spaces, so I guess they can just put in a space for 1 car if they wanted to.
And
I don't know if that works.
Well, and I don't see a problem with that, because if they happen to get another car or another family moves in, it has to be on an approved parking surface.
Yeah, it's gonna, right, they're gonna build what's necessary to park their cars, so.
Right.
I think we have to leave it up.
So
I
what
just
the
wanna make
attorney was suggesting was a variance process where that hardship case, perhaps we would consider that a hardship and would not require the 3 spots where there never was one. But would that variance then stay in, that variance would stay in perpetuity?
Or you can just say
the
that you're.
variance would be
Variance is
based on the
wrong, but
property,
land.
right? So the hardship on the property. So, right, you don't do variances based on who's living there. You do it based on the property uniqueness. Remember, it's based on special circumstances of the property, lack of enjoyment of the property. So you do it, it would run with the land.
So if I may, to take it to the situation where the duplex is, and there are some streets where the duplexes are very close, they don't have that far a setback, and it might be an imposition to put in the required 4 spaces for those 2 living units. That may be a situation where the variance would be a reasonable solution.
I just, instead of going for having a variance which runs with the property, why can't we have something in here saying the required number of parking spaces is for new construction? So those number of parking spaces only pertains to actually a new structure. I don't mean a new driveway, but a new building.
Well, 5.6.6 is existing non-conforming minimum off-street parking, but that just pertains to, let's see, the number of off-street parking spaces existing on properties at the time of adoption.
That's off-street.
Right. So that's saying if you have parking now and it doesn't comply with the minimum number of requirements, you're legal non-conforming.
Right.
But then if you put a driveway in, those aren't spaces that previously existed. So you would need to bring it up to code with the you wouldn't fall under this non-conforming section.
Yeah.
You follow me? So maybe we need to modify that section to apply to the circumstance where even if you put in a new driveway, you don't need to comply with the number of spaces.
It may be better not to focus so much on the language.
What?
Have you told the neighborhood that this is what you're going to do? I mean, you still
Wait,
have
wait,
to set okay.
It may be better not to focus on the language, focus on what you want to do and articulate it, and then we'll put it in the ordinance, because.
Yeah.
If you decide to put this as to an ordinance right away, you are making I swear to God, I wouldn't vote for one of you. We had 30 people that came to our meeting because you were talking about having setbacks of 3 feet, 2 feet with the plants, and they went crazy. Nobody knew anything about these driveways, and now you're saying to people that the smallest, dinkiest, dumpiest houses are going to be the ones affected. And you think this is fine? You think...
Can we continue the commission discussion?
Yeah, okay.
You can, as long as you have unapproved parking surface,
Okay.
but don't make somebody put in an arbitrary
Barbara.
one
Barbara.
space.
Okay.
Don't need a scolding.
All right. Look, I'm just going on what the board presented to us.
But the board accepted that 5.6.6, which gives it non-conforming properties. If you do not have,
as to the number of parking spaces. Okay. Well,
which means if you have 0, you don't even need any more.
We're just having a conversation. We're just talking.
Well,
about
I'm afraid from past experience that this is going to go to the next step, and it's going to be in the form of an ordinance at the next meeting.
Okay.
Can we?
Yeah. I just want to hear from Gage one more, and then we'll come back.
Yeah, I just have to completely disagree with that. If you guys voted...
What was the intent of this subsection 1?
Subsection...
Non-conforming properties that do not have an approved driveway surface shall have 1 year from the date of enactment to come into compliance. What is that?
Hold on. Give me the number again.
It's right there on the screen, number 1, A1.
Top
A1.
of 10.
So basically the intent, and this is something that we've been working on, is we want to get people to put driveways in. Okay, that's the bottom line of the language. If you guys voted for it, I'd vote for all of you. Okay, the counter Barbara's argument. It's something that is needed. We have people that park in the village that don't have driveways. They park on their front yards. It's dirt. It's time to enforce, and let's have some driveways that look nice. That's the intent. And the intent is that the people that do not have driveways from 1 year after the enforcement of this law, enactment of this law, should have to be putting driveways in.
How many houses do not have driveways? I mean, is this
I don't know.
is there houses where people don't use their driveways?
Well, and that's my point, is that all this says is it doesn't have to be a traditional driveway. It can be an approved driveway surface to park your car. It could be a gravel square.
No, no, no.
No, that's not what they're saying.
No.
There's nothing in here that says the configuration or the
It's
length.
has to be a driveway.
Well, you can define that, okay? I mean, we want the swale.
Well, we want the approach
There are
too, but I
design
mean,
standards, yeah.
technically, you could put just a pad up on your property and park your car there, you know?
No, as long as you have an ingress point from the road.
On off-street parking, yes.
Okay. All right. So let's continue.
There's no dimensions for a driveway in
Correct.
here.
And there's no.
A lot of zoning
There's
codes say
materials.
that you have to have at least 9 by 20 as a driveway or a parking lot
Right.
space.
And
We
there-
don't have that.
It's just regulating the material.
And the location, no closer than 30 inches.
Right.
And 40%.
Mayor, I have a question. Gage, 1 second. On the gravel approved surface,
Yeah.
your approach to your property in the swale area, you got to have at least 4 inches deep border. You know, a lot of houses that happen to have gravel out by the street, I see a lot of it migrates out into the street. Did you guys discuss maybe to have like a 2-foot apron? In other words, the part of the gravel that abuts the pavement, to have.
Yeah, well,
Instead
I
of
mean,
4 inches,
we
to
addressed
have
that
2
with
feet.
the, a permanent border around the gravel.
Well, that was but it says 4 inches, but the part that abuts the pavement, since 4 inches isn't very much and gravel migrates, did you guys discuss to having something wider?
We didn't discuss a specific dimension.
Because
We just said that it has to be enclosed,
Right.
including
Right.
across the the asphalt part,
Gage,
the street side.
Commissioner Anderson, I believe you're 4 inches deep.
It's the
and I
deep
could-
of the deep depth of the gravel.
Right.
Into the ground.
Okay.
Not the perimeter
Not the
border.
I'd like to see something in there to have an apron where it abuts the pavement of 2 feet, because it seems like the gravel always seems to migrate out into the street. Not saying it's not going to migrate those 2 feet on top of the whatever concrete or whatever they happen to have for the border and get out to the street, but it'll slow it down, and hopefully people will push it back themselves. At least the gravel isn't right to the edge of the pavement.
So, but what if they decide to gravel the swale area too?
Well, that's what I'm referring to, is where the gravel abuts to the pavement,
The actual street, not the
the
swale.
street. You need to have a 2-foot hard surface there.
So Commissioner Anderson, typically the planning board requires brick. And brick is about 6 inches.
We don't require actually.
Well, maybe you don't require brick,
Well-
but that seems to be what I see mostly.
Yeah, most
going
likely
on.
people choose to use a paver.
A paver brick, which is about 6 inches.
But I'm
You
just
would
what
say
I've been noticing.
4 of those.
Yeah, you have a couple of, I'm just saying, hard surface, so the gravel isn't within 4 inches of the pavement because of the border. Well, not 4 inches, like you said, it's 4 inches deep, but whatever the width is, I'd like to see a requirement of at least 2 feet to minimize the migration of that gravel out onto the roadway.
So then if you're doing the swale, you'd have 2 feet of brick and then your gravel?
If you're doing parallel to the street. But if it's an approach going in to the house, you would have your 2 feet, then if you wanted to have gravel going in. Just take a look at the houses that actually have gravel going out, and you'll see there's always gravel out onto the pavement.
My neighbors do, and I don't see it, but they've got...
no gravel in the street, I groom it in.
Well, see,
My gravel goes all the way to the street.
you do the right thing, but we have a lot of people that don't do that.
Tear up the whole 2 feet and resurface it?
We're not, the wording of this is whatever exists, exists. This is something new, whatever's being put in.
Did we resolve it?
Not really.
It's all fixed.
No, no.
So, just to follow up on what Commissioner Anderson was saying, there's a paragraph in here that says, whatever is decided, the non-conforming, the driveways that don't conform to that new standard would remain in place until there was a change in the material or an installation of a new driveway. the existing driveway would be fine.
Again, I think as written, the legalese here and the sections and subsections are so confusing that, and I think that Barbara Kuhl is right in that most of the people were aware of the changes in the landscaping suggestions, but this driveway thing, I think if we were to push it through to an ordinance now, you would have people up in arms about lack of transparency, or they didn't know, and this, that, and the other thing. So I don't think it's ready.
But that's in part why we're having the conversation now, so that we can give our policy decisions and give direction, and then we can continue the discussion.
Should we reschedule this, the continued discussion about this, and call it a commission workshop and have it on a Saturday,
Yes.
and people will come instead of doing this now?
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I suggested that 3 months ago.
Let me hear
how
from
about-
the manager. How do you feel about that?
I think if it's going to get you to your solution, I mean, this is a very helpful conversation to us. I think we can go back and draft some language and come back. The ordinance will be, advertised. We can make sure we let people know it's being considered. You haven't touched on the other two sections. I would suggest perhaps going through those and then deciding what your final next steps are.
But I almost feel like, huh?
Why are we rushing?
No, we're not.
Workshops the next?
Yeah, no, I do, but I think I'd rather give some direction to staff so that they can come up with something tighter than this, so that when we have the workshop.
So we've talked about some
You know,
things, we should give them consensus on.
Yeah, I have a
what-
list that we
I
kind
agree.
of need some consensus.
Yeah,
Right.
And I think a good way to do it, when you have, if you have that, or whenever you discuss it, is to simply move this away and say, do we want to require driveways? Do we want to have exceptions?
I know,
Just,
right.
And then if you give that type of information.
You can work on the language.
That's a lot easier for me,
Yeah.
frankly, than to go into the language.
Right.
I'd rather blow it up.
And then we'll have a workshop to discuss
Yeah,
it, but I think we need to make some progress and move this forward, so.
Well, why don't we discuss something like that? Why don't we take the biggest of the big picture and see if that's where we want to go?
Yeah,
And then
that's-
we'll bring people in and have them discuss it.
Okay, that's what I've been
So-
trying to, so
so-
on this section.
So
it's
yes, I think we should have driveways. We
Okay.
should have people parking on proper
Within 1 year, I
surfaces.
suggested 2 years because
Well,
I
that's,
understand there is.
that's a detail. We can get to that another time.
Having driveways, a driveway, yes, I agree, a driveway.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I understand.
All right, next.
We're trying to elevate this community and to have people park on their front yard. I mean, people have driveways in their houses. That's where you park cars. It's crazy not to have driveways.
Right.
Go ahead.
So, this may be like a little more tightening of that, is I think that people should, for the most part, park their vehicles on private property, on their property. And that should be on an approved surface.
Okay. So you're okay with requiring driveways, or approved driveway surfaces?
Yeah, I'd like to see the houses that don't have driveways and what the problem is and where they park now. I don't know how many of them there are. I don't know of any. I've heard of one, but I don't know.
So are
I'd like
you
to see
okay
that.
with?
Otherwise, I do believe in driveways.
Good, so,
Okay.
so let's go on to the next section then.
All right, so you work on the section, work on the non-conforming language section with respect to the number of spaces, right?
I have some direction, yes. I'll move it forward. I'll move the ball.
Okay.
But Heidi mentioned she had a list of things that she sort of summarized from our discussion, so maybe we can go through that.
All right, so what's the next section?
All right, the next big one.
But shouldn't we go through Heidi's list of things that, just on this topic that we were going through?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was on this
I
topic.
mean, there were just a few ideas thrown out. One was to extend the 1 year to 2 years for compliance. There would definitely need to be some compliance language, so what's the consensus of the commission for folks to come into
Yeah, I say
compliance?
2 years.
I was just going to say, Mayor, I think it needs to be something, like you say, compliance. It's got to be done. In other words, we don't get into like was brought up with the boat ordinance, where you have 1 year and somebody, after a year, just when that almost expires, now they took a permit out, and now it gives them another 6 more months.
You said 10 years before.
Though that has to do with an existing driveway.
Oh.
That's something completely different.
All right.
But so, whatever the period of time, whether it's 1 year or 2 year, it's got to be complied with at that point. It's got to be finished. And I think 2 years is reasonable of getting it finished, because first of all, the people are going to have to be aware of it, they're gonna have to figure out what they want, where the money is coming from, and then get the construction, but it's gotta be worded where it's gotta be completed within that 2 years.
So do we all agree 2 years to completion?
Yes.
If not sooner. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Specify the width of the border for the gravel lots, the required width of the border for the gravel lots. Right now, we just say you need a perimeter border, we don't talk about the width of that border.
That goes.
I'll leave it up to staff to research that and decide what's
Well,
appropriate.
Half of it anyway, that's
I
4
need to
feet.
see different
No,
examples.
it's
Yeah,
the
I
part
think
that hits the
that's kind of
pavement,
like a
that's all.
standard in the
I
industry.
don't care
What do
if
they,
gravel
what do
goes all over
pavers,
people's yards.
what do
That's
they
up to
do?
their problem.
Yeah.
It looks really nice.
Well, that would be structurally of what, on a border, how wide does the border need to be structurally to keep everything together?
It's in there, it's in the approved parking surface.
Because I know it's 4 inches, it's gotta be at least 4 inches deep.
It's covered in that section. We don't cover it here.
So that means they're gonna have to
Okay.
dig out?
We have that.
Then what
As
about,
far as an apron off the street, that's not covered.
I'd like to see the apron
That's not what they're
part.
talking about, it's the language that they have to have a permanent perimeter border, and he's asking for an actual
width of that?
dimension of that
That is
border.
covered under the approved parking surface.
How wide?
4 inches.
4 inches?
No, it says 4 inches deep for the gravel lot.
That's two different things. The border is covered.
Okay.
The depth
Okay.
is the gravel is at the big 4 inches.
That's a detail, I think.
Oh, that 4 inches is, it's gotta have at least 4 inches of gravel? Is
All right,
that-
what the issue is
Okay.
that
But that's not this section, so don't worry.
But Gary, no, it's the width of the border, the width of the border.
Okay.
You mean from the street to the gravel?
No.
What is on the property is covered in another section and it is described. What Commissioner Anderson has brought up is the apron approach from the street. That you might want to discuss, but the rest of it is already covered.
That's why it's so
But it's
confusing,
another
because they're in
section.
different
It's not-
parts. They should be all together.
We're not discussing approved parking services in this section. We reference it because it's in another.
Okay.
I think that's a detail to be
Yes,
worked
that's
out.
fine. All right, anything else on your list?
I think we all agreed to remove 5.6.1B, which is referring to the multifamilies 10-foot landscape buffer.
Yes.
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 Consensus. I have a note that we're gonna just make sure we verify that, variances are allowed. And then, the issue about still allow unapproved or unpermitted, or no, permitted but not approved materials. Like
Right.
the mulch issue. We'll make
Right.
sure the language is right.
Okay.
Now, will variances cost the homeowners money?
Variances always cost the homeowners money. There's advertising, notification, and staff cost involved with the variance.
I think that could pose
Okay.
a problem for many.
So that's my list on that issue.
All right.
Do we
next
want to
section.
talk
All right,
about the dead trees? Trees?
I'm sorry?
Do we want to talk about dead or diseased trees in the swale?
We could, I mean, I don't know. I almost think that maybe, there's not a huge rush to do this, so maybe we take one item. We had a good conversation about parking tonight.
You know what I want to do, Dave,
I
and this can
agree.
be for the future, but I want to preserve a swale of, let's say, 8 feet, for example, or 10 feet. And if there's any more swale than that, give it to the homeowner. We don't need these crazy amounts of swale.
All right, but
And
just
and so it's more trees that the homeowner will own, they'll own the swales, and they can take care of it.
Okay, but on procedurally, do you want to just take one of these topics per meeting? And then once we have a consensus as to what policy we want, then we can have a public, a workshop to have a community-wide discussion.
Sure.
Does that make sense? So
Mayor?
in April, we'll take on the dead tree section, and then the following month, we'll take on the swale.
And have a
I
workshop
think that's-
following each?
Is that an evil eye?
No, I'm confused. I mean, I'm sorry. So the way you're saying is, no workshop, we're not gonna
Not
come
yet.
back with any
Not yet.
proposed language right now, we're gonna just keep working,
Right.
and maybe like in 3 months, have some kind of complete proposed language package?
Right.
Like
And
you're
then-
not
and then-
expecting this section next month?
No,
No.
and then have a workshop.
But to go ahead, and I agree with you, if we could go ahead and let's say, refresh some of the language as far as the driveway, what we just discussed.
I think
Just that piece, to have that cleaned up, so we can come back and take a look at that and see if that's exactly what our intent was.
I agree with Commissioner Anderson, not to have it in the form of an ordinance,
Yeah, I agree.
but to have it so that people can read it and have a discussion about it, and we'll have more public input throughout, as we go along.
I agree with that. I think if you bullet point it that way, people understand it better.
Okay, does that work for everyone?
So roll it back
So
into
we-
the next agenda.
Yeah, the discussion's gonna continue as a discussion item at the next agenda.
Right, but the only pieces that were going to be changed for the next discussion is just what we talked about.
Correct. Okay?
So no workshops?
Not until we,
Done with all, the whole thing?
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot of material to cover at a workshop, I think.
I think once we go through it, we're gonna narrow it down. You know,
I agree.
I don't think we need to have 3 workshops.
No, but
Okay. Is everyone in agreement
Yeah.
with that?
Yep.
Okay.
We're in agreement.
And then we can have your larger discussion.
Can I just
when
ask
we
one
talk
thing?
about this one.
Go ahead.
Mayor.
Yes.
I don't know, one thing that's not being addressed is the street standards, visibility triangles.
That's going to be part of this swale discussion.
Is
Yeah,
it? Because
we didn't
I
get
mean,
to
it's
that.
something that's pretty, I think,
Right.
important now,
Yep.
because it's, all we did was basically reworded it to the way it is written now and added diagrams to it, so, and I know there's some enforcement issues because of confusion, so I think it's something important to look at.
Yeah, this was just
What-
clarifying.
what we're
It's been
trying to
like
do
this
is,
for many months,
what-
it'll stay for a few, years, so it'll stay for a few
what we're
months.
trying to do is to take just a small piece and maybe get consensus on that small piece, then we start going with pieces on it, and then then we'll have a package to go ahead, my understanding,
And
we
then
have
do
the
a workshop.
package to have the workshop.
Right, okay. All right, so we'll talk about that with the swales section. All right, moving on to new business. Girl Scouts, are we going to have that discussion, 13A?
Yes. At a recent Miami Shores Chamber of Commerce luncheon, they had a representative from the Girl Scouts there, and I was on a panel with other managers. And she approached me at the end and said that the Tropical Girl Scout Council was very interested in starting a troop here in Biscayne Park, and that they had some interest. And I immediately put her in touch with Ms. Bartley, and they continued their discussions regarding the use of our facilities for the troop. Typically, troops meet in schools or religious institutions, and it's my understanding that they are not charged a facility fee. So I wanted to get permission to waive that fee for them. The hourly fee for a resident for the use of one of our rooms is $40 per hour. For the small room, $50 per hour for the big room. For a non-resident, it's $80 per hour to $100 per hour, based on which room they're using. I think this is a great program to bring to the village. It's the membership, we've been told the girls from Biscayne Park will have the first priority for sign-ups. And it's, I just think it's a really great program. It's an inclusive program, and I think it kind of represents the direction we're going in with our recreation center.
So are you suggesting a full waiver or?
Yes.
Okay. Comments?
How often do they meet?
They meet anywhere from once a month to twice a month.
And usually there's a Girl Scout leader.
Correct.
Troop leader, and would that troop leader be resident of Biscayne Park?
It's all based on volunteers.
Yeah.
She ideally would like a resident to be the troop leader.
Yeah.
We might have volunteers that might not be residents, but staff will step up to get the troop going.
The Girl Scouts,
It
though,
requires training to be a
They-
Girl Scout leader.
they don't have the same baggage as the Boy Scouts?
No, they're completely inclusive.
Commissioner Anderson? I have a concern on waiving the complete fee. One is we're tying up a time slot of no revenue, and we're sitting here with a very high millage rate of 9.7. We should be looking at actually bringing money in, not giving things away.
So what we're doing is giving away a time slot that maybe somebody else would want and be paying for it. Could be a resident, non-resident. You know, so I don't think we should be giving the time away. Then we get into the other part, which was brought up, that what about our residents that are renting the space for presentations or whatever they're renting for? They can go ahead and say it's a hardship for them and they need to get a reduction or a donation. I just don't think that we should be giving the time away.
Should we give them the resident rate instead of the outsider rate because they're going to have some Biscayne Park?
I think that's something we ought to consider.
Okay.
We can consider that.
Commissioner Ross?
So they meet 1 or 2 times a month, and how long is their meeting?
About an hour to an hour and a half.
An hour, so, okay, an hour to an hour and a half. We're talking at the resident rate, $480, or if it's 2 times a month, $800, $900.
No, you're talking at the resident rate?
Yeah, $40 an hour, 12 months.
Oh, I'm sorry, a year, yes.
Annual,
Yeah,
annually,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So $800 to $900 a month. And what
A year.
time? A year. And what time do these meetings take place? I think typically we're after school.
They're kind of after school, early evening meetings. You can go to the podium if you want. I also want to remind you that they're a nonprofit service organization.
Right. That was my next point, is that they're not, it's not a business promoting itself here with a seminar or something like that. This is a not-for-profit. I think that it opens up a new program for our children, and I like the ideals that the Girl Scouts promote. I don't have a problem in the middle of the afternoon or early evening allowing their use of the space once a month or twice a month. I think that it would serve the community well, and you know, it's just another option, another program that we could offer.
It's probably a low usage time of day anyway, isn't it?
Commissioner Watts?
No, but don't we have an after-school program, Shalisa?
We do have an after-school program, but they did say that they can work within the after-school program and recruit girls out of the after-school program. And the program doesn't also run all year round. So summertime they would take a break, and when schools are on break, so it's not like that they're utilizing
Not full
the
12
building
months.
all the time when other people aren't
That's a
here.
good point.
as
But if we decide to waive it, I mean, I guess we have to put some type of limitation. I mean, they can't, if they decide to meet 3 times a month or twice, you know, maybe we waive it for, you know, 1 meeting a month, 1 hour a month, and then anything in excess of that, you know, we would charge them the rate.
I'm not sure I'm being factual here. I'm not sure that they have the means to accommodate a rental fee. So I think this is almost an all or nothing option.
but my
that
point is
they will not be a Biscayne Park troop if we cannot waive the
Right, but there
rental.
needs to be some limitation as to the time, you know, the amount of time that they're going to
We
occupy.
can certainly
the space.
work with that, and there's often times that they're on field trips, or they might be doing something outside.
Yeah.
that
I
we're
think you're
always
right. We set the parameters of what it is that we're donating.
Right.
And that way, it's in a resolution, it's clear to everyone, and
And I'm okay doing it, and maybe we have a policy for a 401c, you know, not-for-profit.
Well, we can always bring it back because there were concerns in the past with another organization, so on a case by case.
Okay.
I have a few things out. First, it was my knee-jerk reaction was say yes because I think the Girl Scouts is such a wonderful organization, blah, 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 blah. But maybe it's because of this litigious society, but in my experience, we always met in the basement or the Florida family room of someone's house, the troop leaders. And I remember Joe Chow asking for a waiver of fees to have one of his groups here. And I said, Joe, have it at your house. You've got a big house. If we did get it, if there were a troop leader in Biscayne Park, I don't see the necessity of giving up our facility without any recompense.
I'm okay with 1 hour a month meeting,
yeah.
waiving the fee.
To address Commissioner Watt's concern, I think, you know, when we were growing up in the 60s and the 70s, it was a different environment. People were more trusting. It was more of a village raising the children, the neighborhood raising the children. And today, there are many concerns that parents would have about having their child go to someone else's place.
It's a different
So
world.
this is a, you know, neutral, open place where the troop can meet.
All right, so let's put this to bed. So who, in support of this, for waiving an hour?
No, I would support a resident rate because we were discussing, what I'm hearing is one of our residents, they're looking to be running the troop.
Okay.
So I could, I could go along with the residents rate, but I just can't go ahead. It's a noble cause, but I think our situation, we should not be just giving things away.
Okay.
I make a motion that we draft and adopt a resolution to allow use of up to 14 hours a year for the Girl Scout troop.
Rox?
Yeah.
On condition that X% of the troop is Biscayne Park residents?
Well, we won't know that as it's going to be a growing troop, but certainly, certainly to have a preference for Biscayne Park residents to join the troop.
Commissioner Ross, may I offer a suggestion that they do one service project to improve the village of Biscayne Park a year?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, that's a fantastic idea.
It'll work.
Okay, so
what you're talking about is it would be an in-kind donation.
Be it I mean, I would leave it up to them, but anything from litter control to planting a garden to, it depends on the capabilities of the girls in the troop, but do something that helps out the village. They get patches for their service projects, a patch project.
So, because if it's an in-kind donation, to add up basically what the revenue that we're not getting, if it was from a resident, I could entertain that thought.
Child labor.
So, if I would draft and adopt, I make a motion, we draft and adopt a resolution to host the proposed Girl Scout troop here at the Recreation Center for up to 14 hours a year, and as an in-kind donation to one annual service project from the troop.
Okay.
I would add something to the effect of the time permitting or the facility being free. I'm just still worried about the other things that paying people will be renting things. And
no, we're trying to work around everyone's schedule, and everything depends on who's in the troop and who's the troop leader, but we try to house it around when other meetings are there, so it's not like they're utilizing the building by themselves.
And the way the motion is articulated, it's up to 14 hours per year, so it's not guaranteeing them time, and that can be worked out, I'm sure.
And don't forget, come September, October, we will have 2 facilities in which meetings can take place versus facility rentals.
Yes, okay, so.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Ross.
Oh, second.
Second by Vice Mayor Jonas, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0? Okay.
Yeah, you 5-0.
Okay, 13B, the Pelican Harbor Seabird Station.
Yeah, I agree with our neighbors who said we shouldn't be giving away money, but maybe we should give a resolution or something in support of them.
Well, wait, let's just hear from Madam Manager. Do you want to introduce?
We were approached by the Pelican Harbor Seabird Station to contribute to their 35th anniversary event. They pointed out, I believe the email that they sent to us is included in your backup. They sent out that El Portal, North Bay Village, North Miami, Bay Harbor Islands, and South Miami are also participating as sponsors. They pointed out in their communication to us that in 2014 they helped 19 creatures that were found in the village of Biscayne Park, and I think that was their appeal to asking us to assist them.
Yeah,
I looked in the budget.
They rescued a blue heron from my property.
Oh, very nice. There was one that I was a little worried about. Yeah, the raptors. That got my attention. But
we looked in the budget, and there seems to be some funds available in the commission budget for promotional activity. There's about $500 left in that budget for the year.
Can you remind me what El Portal and Miami Shores?
El Portal was 250, and Miami Shores was either 250 or 500.
Okay.
500.
Okay. Other comments, Commissioner Ross?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that there's room in the promotional budget of the commission for this. But maybe we need to use that for other things, as the log cabin is, you know, those activities over there are happening, and the ribbon cutting and all of that. So I am willing to donate my next draw to be applied towards a donation to the Pelican Party.
Your next what?
My next commission draw.
I'll donate
The draw.
something too.
Yeah, I'll do the same.
What's a draw?
Well, we
So
get
much you get
quarterly
paid.
payments, so my next payment of commission salary to be,
All right. Yeah, I think that we can all make our
So
own
just so
decisions.
it comes up to a 250 level donation, right? In other words, you're not putting 250 you want to do a percentage of the 250, right?
okay, we'll meet whatever El Portal's doing, I
I'll
guess.
put in something
Yeah.
too.
Okay, so we can all, I guess, privately.
Yeah, I think this is an
Okay.
individual.
I don't want to put
If you
people on
want
the
to work
spot.
through
Yeah.
us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll talk, I think the consensus is that if we individually want to support it, we'll do it through the manager, and she'll notify them.
And then the money would go directly to them rather than just going for a seat in a dinner and paying for rubber chicken.
Mayor, do we also want to go ahead and have a resolution in saying that we support their, what they're doing?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, motion that we draft and adopt a resolution in support of the Pelican Harbor Seabird Station and their mission, and looking to continue working with them as community partners.
When is the, when do we need to donate by?
The event is March 14th, so if we could hear from those who are willing to donate within the next week, that will give us a chance
Okay.
to put something together.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, reports, village manager.
Request for placement of items on the next agenda, number 14.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'd like to place two discussion items. One is have a discussion about, I think we discussed this in the past, but have a discussion about speed tables. Maybe possibly doing it like on a temporary, I don't know if it's possible to do it like on a temporary basis as a test on Griffin, or on, you know, one of the major.
We can bring it back as a discussion, or I can briefly update you right now. Well, Griffin's a county road.
Right.
So I'm working towards putting a meeting together with some of the folks at the county to even see if it's permissible. Ultimately, that would be their decision and not ours. So I
Okay,
can-
but that, yeah,
when we
if
have
you
an
can come back
update-
with some information on that,
Yeah.
that would be helpful.
What about our roads?
We started to go forward with some speed tables around here by the park, or the idea of them. The county does require a vote of anyone, even on these interior roads, of anyone on the street that would be affected by it. When it was in a manager's weekly update, there was a great uproar by some of the folks that would have been affected, and other work got prioritized, and we never proceeded with that. If the commission wants to have a discussion, we can pull out the Kimley Horn study that was done for the village and bring that back next meeting.
Okay. The second item was to bring back the basketball court issue. I'd like to talk about that whole issue and the research that was done, and then also I'd like to introduce some, I think it's 125th Street, but there's some parks that have sort of like outdoor exercise apparatus. So that's a possible replacement for the basketball court area. So something that would appeal to the adult residents. And that's it. Anyone else?
I thought about that in the past for some of the large medians, make a Vita course.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
So we can have that discussion.
Right.
Anything else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go.
We all received an email, I think it was this morning, from a resident about the newsletter. And I think that we should have a discussion and give some direction about what we want to see in our newsletter.
Good idea.
So. Also, we received a letter from a resident and the response from our police chief regarding dedicated dispatcher or phone. I'd like to have that as a topic of discussion and give the chief an opportunity to, you know, tell us his view on it. And those are my two things.
Okay.
And giving back all but 8 feet of swale.
I think what the stuff I was thinking about has already been covered.
Okay.
And the other one is still, once I get a little bit more information back and forth with the manager as far as the train horns, but I already talked about having that before. So I've gotten some good information back from the manager. So, well, I don't want to, we just say it's pending because I was going to be putting it on there and I pulled it to have for this meeting, and I'm not sure I'm going to have enough information to be able to proceed with it for the next meeting. So I want to talk to the manager a little bit more about that.
I've never heard so many railroad horns. I haven't even been aware of the railroad for years, and now I hear it like every 3 hours. And also then I was thinking of, there's a website called, it's a nationwide thing, but it's for various neighborhoods, and I think it's called Biscayne Park Neighborhood. I don't know if you've gotten any things in it. Miami Shores, people use it all the time for Miami Shores, but there are about 100 people who are in this website, and I was wondering if we might, as a village, join the website so that then our newsletters would go into it, and so that then people who don't want to sign up for our emails might join up in this group.
But the newsletter's on our website. I mean, we have a website, a wonderful website. I don't know.
Well, I'd like to have a discussion. I'll forward it to you. Yeah, I'll send you an email with it. Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Watts?
No.
Okay. All right, manager.
Last week, I attended the North Miami City Council meeting with our legal representation on the issue of annexation, and we expressed our desire to work with the North Miami City Council on coming to some resolution regarding our conflicting annexation applications. There was indication from the council that they were interested in having a discussion, but they wanted to agenda it and give proper notice to their residents. So tentatively, we are going to their March 10th commission meeting to discuss any potential conflicts between our two applications.
And we also met with the mayor after our last meeting as well, no?
Perhaps,
okay.
yeah. The mayor and Mayor Coviello and I met with Mayor Smith-Joseph of North Miami and their staff to discuss the conflicting applications, and the mayor indicated, that he was willing to continue to talk to us. I think we all have different ideas of what the compromise should be, but it's at least the start of the discussion. I also attended the County Commission Planning Advisory Board earlier this week, where they considered the North Miami application for the Biscayne corridor, and at North Miami's request, it was deferred to allow them time to speak to us, but our representation did go on record that we were opposed to the application, which does give us some standing if it is to proceed. Regarding the annex building, you can see it's well underway with its construction. You can start to see just today the windows being formed out with the construction of the walls. We received an updated construction schedule from our contractor earlier today. Some big milestones that we're looking at. If everything stays on track, we do not have torrential downpours and those type of things. We should be swinging trusses on about 2 weeks from tomorrow, which means actually framing out the roof structure, and the building should be closed in, with the roof closed in, at least with the sheeting, by the end of March. So we're moving nicely along with our schedule, and we're pretty excited about that. Regarding the, and I just want to let you know, because it's something that just happens behind the scenes and you all might not be aware of it, and that's that our architectural firm comes out with every payment application that we receive from the contractor, and they inspect the site to make sure that we're being billed for the work that was actually done, and making sure that the work is being done to the plan. So there's a lot of eyes and ears and hands on this site. Regarding the Village Hall log cabin restoration, I heard from our architectural architect today, and we expect to have the bid documents within 2 weeks, is what I've been told. We are meeting next Tuesday morning with him to review the plans to make sure that they're ready to go out to bid. Our goal is to bid, if everything stays on track, our goal is to let the bid, open the bid up, the RFQ or RFP process up March 20th, thereabout March 20th, and give it a 30-day bid process. So we're looking at reviewing the bids in late April, and would be hopefully to you at the May commission meeting with a contractor for the restoration project. Then we would hopefully mobilize and start the demolition of the addition so they can begin the work on the restoration by late May. That is our most optimistic schedule that we have right now. Of course, this all changes based on when we get the plans and how the bidding process goes. Mobilization for this will require us to move out of the building. My plan as of right now, and Christian and I talk about this frequently, and as of this afternoon, we agreed that April 1st we will assess our plan that we've kind of put into place once again. But right now, our plan is to begin to move the building and code function to Public Works sometime in early April, and start that transition over there and get them over there, get them settled, and start directing our business operations for that function over to Public Works. As soon as finance is packed up and ready to go, and we get their computers over there, finance will go over. And little by little, each department will begin to move over there, with the goal being by the middle of May, early May, when we're here with the contract for the restoration, we have all moved out of Village Hall. So that will allow us to get ahead of the mobilization and work and start calling FP&L and all of those service utilities to have them turned off, which sometimes can, in my experience, takes a while with all of that coordination, so that our future contractor can prepare the work. Where some of us may end up, be it Public Works or here at the Recreation Center, I really don't know. We might bring in a temporary RV or something like that for some overflow office space, just to make everyone comfortable. But the most uncomfortable part for staff should be only a month, because our construction schedule right now has us finishing up construction in mid-June of the annex building. So we're trying to make this as easy and comfortable for staff, but at the same time keep our functions running at all times.
Manager?
Yeah.
Where's your plans for the police? I'm curious.
The police are all moving into the police trailer as of right now. We are addressing where certain equipment and property might go, be it another jurisdiction, to make sure we're still meeting FDLE standards. We are also thinking about bringing in a temporary RV for them as well for that month, to expand some of their office space.
Because I have a concern, there's no water or toilet facility.
Correct, and that's why we're looking at bringing in some kind of mobile office that might have a holding tank in it. We've started just reaching out to companies and dealers that provide those kind of services. So, best case scenario, construction accelerates on the annex building, and we're really talking about a week or two of inconvenience. What I'm also looking at, depending on the schedule, and outside of the police, back to the Village Hall employees, is maybe doing some rolling schedules, maybe allowing some overlapping 4-day work weeks of the employees. Not that we're ever closed Monday through Friday, but just so the employees are not, uncomfortable, and we're all going to be around one big conference table basically working to try to mitigate any issues there as well. But yeah, we're looking to bring in maybe an A-class RV over there that's like an office, like you might see if you ever gone to visit a new development construction area, and they use like an RV as their office, something like that for 30 days. Community signage. We had an, yes ma'am.
When you said over there to put that type of facility over there, you mean at the Public Works lot?
For the police, we're gonna keep them all at the police trailer area and Village Hall, either at Public Works or here.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Community signage, and again, like I said, April 1st, Christian and I are sitting down again to see if this works. It's like a Lego set in front of us trying to move people around. Yeah, yeah, I don't think people would like our solutions on April 1st, the two of us together, but yeah, maybe April 2nd. Community signage, we received 2 proposals from 2 firms as part of the RFQ for the community signage project. We asked them to give us a conceptual design so we could at least see what their design vision is like, and the decision wouldn't be made just based on price. If you recall, we have $50,000 from the county to expend. We have until midsummer to expend this, and then we would show them our receipts and they will reimburse us. The most responsive bidder, after it was reviewed by myself, Christian, and a resident, was Savino Miller. They had done our previous entrance sign, and they gave a conceptual sign that was kind of interesting. So speaking to them, I met with them Monday. I hope to talk to Adriana again on Thursday, and we're going to hopefully go to contract. And then our first step is to have a joint meeting between the Parks and Parkways Board and the Public Art Board, and make that also a community workshop where everyone can give their input to Savino Miller, and then they can go away and back to the drawing board throughout that time. Staff will be working with them, and then their second stop would be to come in to present in front of the the village commission, and then hopefully we can go and get the signs manufactured. And then finally, we are taking a different approach with some of our recreation events. We're professionalizing the way we're doing it, and what we've been working on, and Shalisa's been really great with this, and Christian's used his past experience to really mentor her in this project, is to come up with sponsorship levels. And that's basically like you see for any event, the bronze, the gold, the silver. And what we've done is, using the egg hunt as our first experiment with this, we've identified the different components that we need to purchase to make the event successful, and we've made packages starting at $500. There are 2 at $250 and 2 at $150 available to folks. So Shalisa's been reaching out to businesses and other people. The nice thing is our 500 has already been scooped up, so the hard work is out of our way. But our plan is to see if we can do this where we expend very little of our village funds and still put on a big event. As you can tell from our events, we're really raising the bar this year, and we're maximizing our use of our budget. But in order to do that for the rest of the year, we need to subsidize some of our events. Our movie nights have been so successful. At this last movie night, we allowed the audience to pick the next movie, and we were planning to do that next fiscal year, but Shalisa's getting so many inquiries and calls about when is this going to happen. People are so excited to participate in the next movie, which is a Frozen sing-along, and costumes are encouraged. That we're actually going to do it this fiscal year. So in order to do that, we're going to start trying out this sponsorship. So if anyone knows of anyone who may be interested in sponsoring, please have them contact Shalisa, and she'll get the
sponsor for the 500?
The Miami Fitness company. So the Miami Fitness group. So they're taking care of like the large part of.
Not great. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
So
great.
Where
Great
can we
news.
get 2 people offering to do the 500?
Since we have multiple.
Go to the podium, please. Thank you.
No problem. With all of the other levels, there's like 2 there's 2 slots for them, the next levels down. So if 2 people wanted to do it, they would be, each person or each organization would be able to contribute the amount that they wanted to.
Or if someone wants to give us 500, I'm sure we can come up
We
with
can spend it, no
more
worries.
work or more event, more
Feature,
more stuff.
another feature.
Yeah, more features. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
the way they do it at the RC or
Yes.
something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's future events coming up. So.
All right, great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else? John?
Thank you. Just want to update you on our code compliance board. We have in our ordinance that board's staggered, and we've gotten away from that. And the staggering is consistent with state law to keep your experience on the board. It's under 162, it's governed under, and our ordinance actually says that. However, we frankly have gotten away from it. So just letting you know that the way the ordinance is for the code compliance board is that it takes effect May 1st, their appointments. So I'm going to be bringing back, right now there's really 5 active members. The alternate's been active. One of the active members has missed 5 consecutive meetings. So I'm going to get with that board and come back with you with their 5 names and tell them that I'm going to ask you to go ahead and re-stagger them. You'll have 2 3-year appointments, 2 2-year appointments, and 1 1-year appointment. And after that, each appointment is 3 years. It's consistent with what our code has said. But when we passed the major 2-30, which addressed all boards, it's not addressed in there, but we acted as if it was, but it's separate, and I realize that, and I want to go ahead and correct that. So I'll be bringing that back next month in a resolution form, as well as addressing the Planning and Zoning Board and the Planning Board, which is the same board, and making that ordinance consistent. So you'll see that next month.
All right, thank you. Maria, it's your turn, I think. Announcements?
No commissioner comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, any comments?
I just wanted to report that I attended a meeting of the Clean Energy Coastal Corridor on February 20th, and they handed us this report that tells us that 2 Biscayne Park properties or projects have been completed, financed through Y-Green, and they have 15 projects in the works, in construction, not yet completed, for a total estimated value of $277,000 in improvements in Biscayne Park. Also at that meeting, we accepted as new members of the Clean Energy Coastal Corridor the cities of Miami Gardens and Miami Springs. So we are growing, and people are taking advantage of this financing option. We have a business expo coming up on May 2nd, and Y-Green will be there presenting their product and advising our clients, advising our residents.
Is there space to have other companies sign up for that still, the expo?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
What
we will
was
be
the
doing
date?
May 2nd.
May 2nd.
And
Oh, okay.
staff will be doing a property standards workshop at the same event during the day to talk about how to improve your property,
Right.
code violations.
Also, I received in the mail, and I guess every Biscayne Park resident received something from Y-Green, and it clearly shows their company and their motto. If you're getting advertisements from someone else that doesn't have the Y-Green emblem on it, then I would be careful who you're dealing with, because there may be people out there trying to take advantage of a situation that aren't authorized to. And finally, Mayor, I want to challenge you to Bike 305. March is Bike 305 month, and I don't know if you've been reading up on it, but there's this big gathering on March 6th at the Biscayne station. Several mayors are participating and other elected officials, just to promote safe bike riding. Biscayne is kind of out of the way for us to be there at 8 in the morning on a work day, but I challenge you to pick a day and we'll both ride our bikes to work.
To work? To Biscayne Park work or to my?
I've done it to my work.
Okay, I accept.
Okay.
Police escort.
All right. Maria?
It's on record.
He accepted.
I accept.
Thank you, Mayor. Saturday, March 7th is Walk a Hound, Lose a Pound at 9 a.m. We'll be meeting at the Rec Center. Saturday, March 7th, in the evening, Food and Tunes, a St. Patrick's Day celebration at 6:30 p.m. Monday, March 9th is the Biscayne Park Foundation at 7 p.m. Tuesday, March 10th is Code Compliance Board at 7 p.m. Wednesday, March 11th, Public Art Advisory Board at 6 p.m. Thursday, March 12th, the Charter Review Advisory Board at 7 p.m. Monday, March 16th, Planning and Zoning Board at 6:30 p.m. Monday, March 16th, Ecology Board at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, March 18th, Parks and Parkway Advisory Board at 6 p.m. Wednesday, March 18th, Code Review Board at 7 p.m. Tuesday, March 24th, Recreation Advisory Board at 7 p.m. Thursday, March 26th, Charter Review Advisory Board at 7 p.m. Saturday, March 28th is the Spring Egg Hunt at 10 a.m. Tuesday, March 31st is a Crime Watch meeting at 7 p.m. Wednesday, April 1st is the Code Review Board at 7 p.m. Monday, April 6th is the Planning and Zoning Board at 6:30 p.m. And our next regular commission meeting is Tuesday, April 7th at 7 p.m.
A motion to adjourn?
All right. Thank you, everyone.